back. And right out of the gate, I'm glad that this week the comment section is already working. Last week we had some technical issues on my end, I guess, and I was unable to read the comments. They were all running together on me, and there was just one big blob. But I'm already seeing you guys. So hey, in Orlando, I saw that. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. I'm looking forward to the show. What I normally do, for those of you that haven't been here before, I normally just sit here and we shoot the breeze with each other, and I play some songs and tell you some stories behind the songs and things of that nature. So we're going to have a good time. It does help me though. I'm going to pull it up here on my laptop as well so I can see everything that's going on. Yes, I do play guitar. You know, the funny part about this is, for me, is that I started doing the whole social commentary, political, whatever you want to call it. I started doing that back in late 2021. I'll tell you all the story behind kind of how that got started, for those that haven't heard it before. I've been a musician since I started playing guitar when I was 15 or 16 years old. I started my first garage band when I was 17, or I joined my first garage band, I should say. I joined my first garage band when I was 17, so it's been 25 years ago now. And did that for most of my life. And then in late 2021, well, prior to that, a guy that I worked with, a friend of mine, had told me about TikTok, and he told me to download it on my phone. And I downloaded the TikTok app, and at first I didn't understand anything about it. It didn't make any sense to me. I thought it was ridiculous because it was just a bunch of stupid shit's really all I could see. And so, I started me a music channel on TikTok, what's the same channel I got now, but I just called it Brandon Fulson Music, and I just shared some, videos of me playing my music and stuff like that. If we was in the studio, I might take a video of me doing a guitar solo or something like that. And I couldn't gain any traction on there at all. I mean, I had maybe 300 followers, something like that. But around that time, I started noticing a friend of mine was doing more of like a social commentary style of of TikToks, and I thought that was really cool because she was doing a really good job talking about current events, and I liked that a lot. And so I kind of started dipping my toes in that just a little bit, and I started making a couple of videos here and there. And then, getting this situated here, and then I made just a couple, and they really didn't do much. They didn't really catch on much at the start. And then, let's see, just getting our stuff rolling here for you guys. But what I ended up doing was I had made just a couple of videos, and I made a video responding to the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. That was one of the first ones that I did. And I did one reacting to the Rittenhouse verdict. And then I logged off TikTok and forgot I even did it. It was one of those things where I didn't care. I just completely forgot that I did it. And it was probably somewhere around November of 21 that I went to my uncle's. It was my great uncle. He was my grandfather's last living brother. I went to his funeral, and while I was there, I just got to thinking about a lot of things. And he was somebody that I wasn't close to. I'd only, of course I'd met him and things, but we weren't close. We hadn't talked in years, hadn't seen him in years. But I just got to thinking about things, and I thought, this is an old Korean War veteran. My grandpa was a World War II veteran, and I just got to thinking, I don't know if we would see eye to eye politically if we sat down and talked, but the way I see it, if you're going to buy into this idea that we fought these wars to save democracy and all these things, then they fought in those wars to give me the right to disagree. And so I came home and I started watching this Hunter S. Thompson documentary, and can't remember the name of it, but it was a really good Hunter S. Thompson documentary. And I started watching it, and I was sitting there, and it got to this part in the show where it was showing how that Hunter S. Thompson just really gave Richard Nixon hell. He was just really getting on to Nixon, and I thought that was so cool. And I was really loving it. And I thought, man, I need to be giving it to Trump like that. It's like, I mean, here we are in the Trump era. He's way worse than Richard Nixon ever dreamed of being. But it's like, man, if there ever was a time to be hammering, someone, it's now. And so I just decided that, I was like, okay, I'm going to make another video. So I got up and I made like a 15-minute video that I was going to post here on YouTube. And you got to understand, at the time I only had like maybe 2,000 followers here on YouTube. So I made that 15-minute video, and then I said to myself, ain't nobody going to listen to what I have to say. Nobody's going to actually sit for 15 minutes and listen to me talk. And so I just kind of kept the video on my phone and didn't do anything with it. And then I was like, well, I wonder what's happening on TikTok. And I logged back in. And that Kyle Rittenhouse video that I had over like 30-some thousand views. And suddenly I had 2,000 or 3,000 followers. And I was going, what the hell? And so rather than uploading that long 15-minute video here, I just started uploading 3-minute videos and putting them there. And it just started snowballing. And pretty soon, next thing you know, here we were, and I've gained over 200,000 followers on there now. Hit the 4 million like button, so that was pretty cool. And it's wild because eventually I braced it all the way across all of social media. But yeah, going back to that comment about you play guitar too. Yeah, I've been playing guitar a long time. I've been playing every dive bar here in East Tennessee and Southeast Kentucky. Played all the way out to Texas and New Mexico. Played the Carolinas, Georgia. Had a great time doing it, but this is what caught on, and this is what people know me for. And so sometimes when I bust out a guitar and play a song, they can't believe it. But I think playing all those years in those places and meeting all those people and hanging around them, it was definitely a learning experience. I don't regret any of it. It was one of those things that and along the way I got to open up for some really cool people. It's not like that I just wandered in total obscurity. I got to open up for a lot of good underground legends. I got to open up for Ray Wiley Hubbard, who's one of my heroes. That was probably the biggest one for me. I got to open up for Scott Miller, who used to be in the V-Roys. I've opened for Mick Harrison, who used to be in the V-Roys. Let's see, opened up for Blackfoot, Molly Hatchet, Jimmy Van Zant, Charlie Robinson, Lucky Tubb, Jonathan Tyler and the Northern Lights. I can't remember his name. It was kind of like a mid-card country singer from the 90s. I cannot remember his name to save my life because I never met him. But that's how it goes a lot of times when you open up for people. You don't actually meet them. Unless it's Ray Wiley Hubbard or Roger Allen Wade. I got to open up for him and meet him. I got to open up for Laid Back Country Picker, who's on my shirt, and I've met him several times. That's totally different. He's a good friend. But a lot of times when you open up for people, they're like, oh, wow, you opened up for Blackfoot. And I'm like, well, first of all, it wasn't the original Blackfoot. It was all young people that Ricky Medlock taught how to play Blackfoot songs. And second of all, I never laid eyes on them. They were on their bus. I did my set, walked off, and never laid eyes on them. So that's how that goes. But, yeah, I've got it's easier for me to see the comments. I can see them now on the phone. But it is easier for me to see them here on my laptop, so I've got it going and the comment section is working. Do I know Jack and Laura Kelly? No, I'm not familiar. You saw me open up for Ray in Pineville with Arlo. That's awesome. That was a great show. That was one of my favorite shows that I ever played, and that was actually on Ray Wiley Hubbard's birthday, which was super cool. I remember they got him. John Grace got him a snake farm cake. I still have that picture in my phone of the snake farm cake that they got him for his birthday. But he's one of the few that actually stood and talked with me and didn't rush me off. He was super humble and super nice and very encouraging to me. He told me that he had heard nothing but good things about me, enjoyed my set, and he hoped to see me again soon. So it was really encouraging. And I tell you what, at that point in my life, I needed that. So if I ever saw Ray Wiley Hubbard again, I would have to say thank you for, giving me a little bit of hope at a time that seemed pretty damn hopeless. But yeah, now I got a funny story. I saw the comment about opening for Molly Hatchet. Yes, I did open for Molly Hatchet, but I about took a heat stroke at that show. I made the mistake of starting drinking around noon. I don't drink near as heavily as I used to, but there was a time that I definitely put it away, and this was during that era. And so I go to open up for Molly Hatchet, and I get there. I start drinking around noon. My set's at like 2 or 3 o'clock, and it's August, East Tennessee, August at 3 o'clock in the day. And I made the mistake of wearing this jeans because I was sitting in an air conditioned, car. I'm sitting in the passenger seat with the air conditioning on, just slamming back beer. And I haven't ate anything. I haven't drank anything else. It's just beers, all I've had. And so there I sit, and I'm getting a good buzz before I go on. And I get out of that cool car, and now I'm in like near 100-degree weather. It was probably 98, 99 degrees that day. And so, man, it was brutal. I'm up there in that jeans vest, and I'm going, damn, this was a mistake. I should have never wore this vest. And so, about mid set, I took the vest off, and then after my set, I can't remember who played in between us. I think it was Jimmy Van Zant. But anyway, I heard him say over the intercom that a guy named Gene Odom was hanging out under a tent. You could go by and meet him. Well, I'm a diehard Leonard Skinner fan, and I know the name Gene Odom. Gene Odom was in the plane crash with Leonard Skinner. He was Ronnie Van Zant's childhood friend and also Ronnie Van Zant's bodyguard. So I was like, oh man, I got to go see this guy. He was in the plane crash with Skinner. So my set's over with. I'm burning up. I've not ate nothing. I've not drank anything. And so I get over there, and I'm under this tent talking with Gene Odom. And I don't know, like me and one other buddy was like the only two people that really recognized that name and gave a crap. So we're sitting there just shooting the breeze with Gene Odom. And we're talking about that plane crash. And you talk about, something to really, having a conversation with someone that was in such an iconic, moment in rock and roll history. It was crazy. But I kept sitting there drinking with Gene Odom. And then I don't know how many number of beer I'm on at this point, but I made the mistake of getting up and walking back out in the middle of that field, and I'm going to watch Molly Hatchet. And I walk out in the middle of that field, and the sun's beaming down on me, and I'm baking, man. And I'm sweating, and I'm dehydrated at this point, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the stage, and the sound crew's getting everything set up for Molly Hatchet to come out, and the stage just kind of started looking kind of blurry to me, and it kind of started like seeing stars in front of my eyes, and it was a mess. I went over by the car and just threw up like a dog, man. It was awful. And so I had my ex-wife go grab me some bottles of water because I realized I was dehydrated. And I got in the car where it was cool, and I didn't have the guts to get back out. So I missed Molly Hatchet. I didn't see their set. I opened for them, but I totally missed that set. So that was one of those things. Yeah. Yeah, moonshine, if you make it the wrong way, will definitely make you walk funny. That's something that I've drank plenty of in my life. And I'll tell you one thing about that. That stuff they got in Gatlinburg, that's all bullshit. I'm not trying to knock no, locally owned businesses or nothing like that, but that's not real moonshine. When you got like 40 proof moonshine, there's no such thing around here. It's like, um, that's just glorified vodka is all that is. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for being here. I will get into playing some of the tunes for you, and I hope you guys will stick around. We'll just hang out for a couple hours and do this. I really have a great time doing it. And so thank you guys so much for tuning in. Now, normally, I started doing these kitchen table live streams back during the pandemic when all the gigs got canceled. I started doing live streams here at the table, and I sat down to do it one night for the first time, and this little Buddha statue was sitting here, and I just put it on the table in front of me, and it just kind of became this little staple. People began expecting to see it every time I sat down here. But I'll kick it off with a song that I wrote about this very Buddha statue. It was back in 2017. I was over at a friend of mine's house, and we were sitting around partaking in some really good herbal medication. And sitting around, had a little fire built outside. We're just sitting around having a good time. And we walked back in the house. And when we walked back in the house, now I'm feeling really good at this point. I'm feeling great. And so we walked back in the house, and this little Buddha is sitting on her dresser. And I just picked him up like this, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, wow, look how happy he looks, and I'm looking at his face, and he's just smiling away. And for some reason, that cracked me up, and I just started laughing at his face. And my friend's like, why are you laughing at my Buddha? And I was like, I'm not laughing at him, I'm laughing with him. I was like, I said, he looks happy. And she said, well, he is happy. And I said, I said, every picture I've ever seen of Jesus Christ, he always looks miserable. Jesus Christ never looks this happy. And so I said, I said, maybe I've been talking to the wrong guy. I just kind of said that to her. Well, the next day when I got ready to leave, my friend says to me, she's like, here, go ahead and take the Buddha with you. And I was like, well, I don't want to take your Buddha. You've had it forever. And she's like, no, I think you need him more than I do, because that's the most that I ever saw you laugh and most I ever saw you smile. And so it was cool. I'd studied Buddhism back in high school and read it a little bit in my 20s, but then right around then I started picking it back up and reading it and getting into it. And it was it's a philosophy that just makes sense to me. And it's one of those things where I said to myself, that's kind of what I probably believed all along, really, at the end of the day. So my friend really helped me more than she realized, because, that night we had a good time and a good laugh, but then I carried this with me ever since, and it's been here at the table with me ever since. So when I got home, I decided to write a tune about this Buddha. And this one will be on my album, Shots of Truth Volume 2, that I'm working on. Volume 1 came out back in June, I believe. And it's already on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, wherever you get music. You can look up Tennessee Brando, Shots of Truth Volume 1. Volume 2 is going to come out on Black Friday, so you guys be sure to watch out for that. And there's also a bluegrass version of this tune on my album, Poa Pretensus, which is available under my name, Brandon Fulson. That's Brandon, Fulson. So yeah, there's that. But we recorded more. We originally recorded the bluegrass version, and then we decided to kind of, rock it up and country it up a little bit. So the new version's the full band, almost giving it a Waylon Jennings kind of vibe. But anyway, I'll do this song for the Buddha. Thank you guys so much for being here. Buddha sat on her dresser with a Jimmy Carter smile. She said, rub his belly for good luck. You're gonna need it for a while. Come to think, when I've seen Buddha, he's got a glassy-eyed grin. Unlike the guy from my race, he was always dying for sin. Jesus sat on the mantle with such a stoic face. He looked miserable above the altar and strung out at Grandma's place. And even knocking on my door, he had a sad look in his eye. Kinda got me thinking maybe I've been talking to the wrong guy. Well, I've done unto others as they nearly done me in. I turned the other cheek and they tried to cave it in. And I laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see I can't carry the cross no longer. I can't live with nail-scarred hands. And I can't die for people who don't care to understand. And it is not my place to bear the sword in vain. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I'm no preacher, I'm no teacher. I don't have the answers yet. I'm not a savior, I'm no healer. I'm just a poet with a pen. And I ain't gonna let them string me up just to serve as their own fate. So when they ask you how they lost control, you can tell them that I'm awake. And I've done unto others, they nearly done me in. I turned the other cheek, and they tried to cave it in. And I laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see I can't carry the cross no longer. I can't live with nail-scarred hands. And I can't die for people who won't try to understand. And it is not my place to carry guilt and shame. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I better be the laughing Buddha or I just might go insane. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for those tips. I saw those coming up, and I really appreciate that. You don't have to do that, but it's always appreciated when you do. I've also got the the virtual tip jar in the description of the video. You can check that out if you want to hit me up on PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. Those are there. But like I said, those aren't required. I want you guys to just sit back and have a good time and enjoy the show and enjoy the stories and the songs. And we'll talk about this screwed up world that we live in as we go along. But I saw those rolling by. The comments are going by pretty quick. Thank you for that one. Thank you, Irina. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I can catch them. They're going by pretty fast on my end. So if I don't catch you, just know that you are appreciated. I appreciate you very much. Like I was talking about at the start of the show, when somebody's like, "You play guitar too?" It's like, yeah. I've been doing it for a long time. I've been writing songs for a long time. And this tune here I wrote back around 2011. I played a lot of dive bars in my lifetime, and the good kind, the kind that really don't exist anymore, not in this part of the world anyway. We used to have some really good dive bar hellholes in the best of ways, and we really did. And thank you, and welcome to the Brando fans and the members. We appreciate all of you. But anyway, I was the house band at this place called the Mustang Lounge in Tazewell, Tennessee. It's no longer there. It's a pawn shop now. And I went over there the other day and looked around in it and reminisced about all the wild and crazy and fun and sad and tragic and happy and horrible and beautiful times that I had in that place. But I was playing at it one weekend, and I woke up the next morning, and man, I'm telling you what, Sunday morning was coming down really, really hard. I was having a hard time getting up. And I looked over and I had a text from a buddy of mine, and it said, "Hey man, I got an opening line for a song. Run with it if you can come up with something." And all it said was, "My soul is an engine running on fumes, and I'll fill it with sadness of a Hank Williams tune." And I saw that and I went, "Damn, that's exactly how I'm feeling at the moment." And I just laid there in bed and I typed the rest of it out on my phone. And I sent it back to him. I left him room for one line on the end. I needed one more line to finish. And I said, "Dude, I left you an opening there on the end. If you come up, you need to write more than one line here." I said, "So if you can come up with the final line for it, we'll call it a day." And he put down, he sent me back, "The longer the journey, the shorter the stay." And I thought, dang, you got the two best lines in the whole song. But I got up, grabbed my guitar, and set it to music, and here we are. It's kind of ironic though, because I'm referencing Hank Williams Sr. in this tune, and years later, I had this bucket list thing I had always wanted to do, which may sound kind of morbid, but I had always wanted to like take the last ride that Hank Williams Sr. ever made from Knoxville to West Virginia, Oak Hill. I thought, I'd like to go there and see where it was they discovered Hank Williams had passed. And if you go there now, there's this little gas. Well, the gas station's tore down, but there's a spot where the pumps were, and they got yellow tape around it. It's pretty wild to see. But I went there, and as I was standing there, now this was 2016 when I did this. So 5 years after I wrote this song, I'm just standing there on the spot where they discovered that Hank Sr. had passed, and it was weird. It was kind of like in that moment I sort of grew into my own song, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to play this one for you now. It's called The Manufactured Twang. And don't worry, there's plenty of Trump bashing coming. My soul is an engine running on fumes, and I'll fill it with sadness of a Hank Williams tune. My brain is a highway, I'm rambling around. I got the heart of a poet, so I write it all down. My old friend Luke, he done drifted away, and we all struck gold on the road he paved. But the sequins and rhinestones could never shine bright as the women and whiskey and all the white lines. I'm living the life that killed Elvis, stuck in a heartbreak hotel, and And old Jerry Lee tried to warn us this car was headed for hell. We're dancing like Jesco and D-Ray, crying when the old possum sang, and laughing at all them posers making that manufactured twang. Last saw Luke on a lost highway. He left me a shadow and a price to pay. And now I stand at the edge of his early grave. I know the longer the journey, the shorter the stay. I'm living the life that killed Elvis, stuck in a heartbreak hotel. And old Jerry Lee tried to warn us this car was headed for hell. We're dancing like Jesco and D-Ray, crying when the old possum sang, and laughing at all them posers making that manufactured twang. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you being with me here on this Friday. We'll play a few more tunes here in a minute. We'll hang out for a while. So hope everyone is having a good one. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the positive comments and the support. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time, playing music, that is. And then one day decided to start doing the one thing you're not supposed to do if you're a redneck country singer in the South. You're not supposed to talk politics, but I started doing it anyway. And that led us to where we're at today. It's so funny because going back to the story I was telling, for those of you that just tuned in, the story I was telling at the start of the show when I kind of decided to start doing the political commentary the way that I did, and it was one of those things kind of accidentally happened for me. But it's just funny because as I was sitting there thinking about, what should I do? I've been doing this a long time. What should I do? What do I need to be doing? I just kept asking myself that. What do I really need to be doing? And then I just said to myself, well, what do I not need to do? Like, what are you not supposed to do? And I thought, so many people, if I even started to talk about politics in this part of the world, someone would say, well, just shut up and sing, buddy. We don't want to hear what your opinion is on nothing. And people don't realize actually how insulting that really is. But I don't know. I just said to myself, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to do the thing I'm not supposed to do, and we'll just see how that works. And so to put it into perspective for you, before I started doing that, I had about 15 or 20 people watching me live, and tonight we've got 186. So we've made some waves anyway, and I appreciate you guys for hanging in there with me. But yeah, I am definitely going to be doing more of these. I'm going to be coming back with another one on live. I'm going to keep going for a while tonight, but I'm saying I'm going to go ahead and announce that I will be doing another one on Black Friday, and that will also be the night that or the day that my album Shots of Truth Volume 2 comes out. So you guys can be sure to check that out. And I'll basically, that night, I'll probably just play that album in its entirety. That's why I decided tonight to kind of go back and tell you guys some stories and play some of the older tunes first, because I'll let you guys hear the new songs. I may end up playing a couple off of it tonight, but if not, I'll definitely be playing that entire album on Black Friday. Again, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Truly Honest, for the tip. I really appreciate it. Like I said, those aren't required, but I really appreciate it. It really helps me to do what I do. So thank you guys so much for that. And I want to give a big shout out to all the members who are in the house tonight. I'm really surprised at how well that's caught on. For those of you that haven't checked that out, be sure to go over to YouTube and check out the memberships. There's different tiers with different perks on each tier. And one thing you do is you get my videos first. That's one thing. I know you get the video. You get to see them before everybody else does. I also do members-only content on there. I have a members-only Monday report that I do. And I'm also thinking about doing a members-only show. Maybe I'm just trying to find a good time to do it. I want to be consistent with it. And I got to find a good day. So I may make a post with the members and ask them, what would be a good time of day for for the members. We've gained quite a few, and I really appreciate them. So I kind of maybe do like a once a month show for just the members. So I'm looking forward to starting doing that pretty soon. But I want to thank you guys so much for sitting here at the table and hanging out with me. Never would have thought that one day we would be sitting here playing into your phone. I never thought that. Yeah, now this Moon Dude wants to know, how did Praise the Lord and Pass the Pills come about, and what was the feedback on that one? Well, again, we got a lot of people here at the table that has never heard me play music before in their life, and they weren't even aware that I was a songwriter. So it's cool when the people shows up that remembers those things, especially remembers a song that was, I think, written in 2008 or 9. My good buddy Gary Lee came up with the idea for it. I think he wrote the chorus of it. Just had the words on paper for what he thought would be the chorus. Because one day he and I were sitting in Barberville, Kentucky, and I don't remember where we went to eat, but we were just sitting on the parking lot eating a burger, and they were building a new Walgreens. They were building that Walgreens there, and from where we were sitting on that parking lot, you could count like 2 or 3 other drugstores and like 2 or 3 churches. You could see them. Like from where we were sitting, you could just go, well, there's another drugstore, and there's a church over there. And Gary said, man, that's all I've ever seen. They're building a Walgreens. And I was like, that sounds like a song, dude. And so we just talked about it, and he sent me the words to the chorus. What ended up being the chorus. He's like, man, if you could write some verses, that we had a good idea, that conversation we were having. He's like, that would be a good idea to turn into a song. And so that song, honestly, he may have gave that to me in 07 or 08, and I didn't get it written until like 09. It was one of those things that just laid in my notebook forever, and I kept kind of going back to that idea. And he kept asking me about it, like, have you ever done anything with that idea where we was talking about the drugstores and the churches? And I was like, no. I was like, I just haven't done it yet. So one day, me and my mom got into a debate, not an argument. Me and my mom's close, we don't argue, but we got into a debate talking about the drug scene and everything, and just being in the Bible Belt. And I just started kind of ranting to my own mom about it. And as I did, went and took a shower, and I came out of the shower, and I thought, wait a minute, let me go back to that idea we had. I went back and grabbed those words, and I just wrote the rest of the verses around it, and grabbed my guitar and put it to music. Now, as far as, how was it received? Well, if you often wondered why that you rarely see me, for those of you that knew my music back then, if you ever said, man, why ain't Brandon at a lot of these events? That's why. There's a couple of people that forgave me enough to let me play some shows, and shout out to them that did, but it got a lot of heat. It really did, because, I was calling out people right in our own hometown. It was totally different. I could sit here and call out Donald Trump for the rest of the night. I can call out Don Jr. I can call out Lauren Boebert, whoever. I'm never going to meet those people. I'm never going to see them. But the people that we were calling out in that song, we had to shop with. We had to bump into them in Walmart. A good buddy of mine one time was talking about it. He's passed away a couple of years ago, but I miss him dearly. And he said, yeah, man. He said, that song there, he said, you wrote that song when your mom had to go grocery shopping with the people you was talking about. And I was like, yeah. So it definitely got a lot of heat. I got a lot of hate mail over that one. And I did have some people say to me, you'll never play on this stage. You'll never play in front of my kids. And it's like, I didn't write it to play in front of your kids, dude. Like, I never intended to sing it there. But it went over really good in the Mustang Lounge. And it went over good in the bars we played it in. And if I can remember the words to it, I'll play it for you guys. I might as well, since I've sat here and talked about it this entire time. But thank you for remembering that one. That's an old tune. I mean, the funny thing is, that was like 08 or 09 when I wrote that. And hell, a couple of years, that song's going to be 20-year-old. So if I can remember it, I'll pull it off for you. But yeah, it definitely, and the thing is, people take stuff so weird. Like doing this gig, I'm telling you, you'd be amazed at some of the comments you get and some of the messages you get from people. And this song definitely brought me a lot of heat back then. And a lot of people was like, you're slamming the churches, you're slamming Christians. I was like, I ain't slamming Christians. I'm slamming hypocrisy. I'm slamming the bullshit of the way that, we throw up a drugstore and a church on every corner, but we never do nothing to help nobody, And so, but yeah, did it get me heat? Yeah, it got me heat. That's why I've never played the Levitt Amphitheater. And I don't care to say that shit anymore. The funny part is now that I'm doing this, I'm free to say that they told me you'll never play here because of that. And I was like, no problem. Well, one lady said, if you would agree not to sing it, I was like, no, now that you said I can't sing it, I'm going to sing it or die, so you might as well not book me. But here it goes. Beats all I ever seen. They're building a new Walgreens. Just what we need, a new drugstore. We must have 20, 25 or more. Heaven forbid we sell a beer. We can't have that stuff going on round here. No porno stores and no cheap thrills. Just praise the Lord and pass the pills. Well, there's winners and there's losers, and beggars can't be choosers. All rednecks work at the mill. Raise taxes for the cruisers and crack down on the boozers. Get out of the car, you know the drill. Why work when you can draw bootlegging alcohol? That's how the preacher pays the bills. But the hippies and the whores, they're going to hell for sure. Praise the Lord and pass the bill. And I should have started with a little bit of a precursor, telling you guys that this was, at the time, a dry county. And that meant you couldn't get alcohol either. We gotta keep this county dry. Start locking up those DUIs. Run Mary Jane plumb out of town. We can't have them stoners hanging around. Don't let your son hang at the bar. You better send him off to war. Too young to drink, but not to kill. So you praise the Lord and you pass the pills. Go to church and shout us down. Get out the hat and pass it around. Get in your car, go eat a town. Up your nose and put me down. Judge me, I won't judge you. Time for a little help, red, white, or blue. You say a prescription, it ain't an addiction. So you praise the Lord and you pass the pills. There's winners and there's losers, and beggars can't be choosers. All rednecks work at the mill. Raise taxes for the cruisers and crack down on the boozers. Get out of the car, you know the drill. Why work when you can draw bootlegging alcohol? That's how the preacher paid the bills. But the hippies and the whores, we're all going to hell for sure. Praise the Lord and pass the pills. Yeah, praise the Lord and pass the pills. All right, thank you so much. And if you just tuned in, it was like, what is that mess? That was written by myself and my good buddy Gary Lee. The Praise the Lord and Pass the Pills. I wrote that back in 2009 for those of you that just joined in. I noticed as I was playing that when the attendance shot up, and I was thinking, man, this is a hell of a note to come in on. But yeah, again, if you wondered why I was never invited to any parties, that's why. But the funny part was, they told me, you can't play here if you're going to sing songs like that. Now, I love Arlo McKinley. I'm not knocking the guy or anything, but he went over there and played Bag of Pills, and they let him. So, go figure. I guess if you're from Ohio and you do it, it's okay. But if you're one of them from there, you're just shit out of luck. So, feels good to finally say that out loud. Oh, well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. But I really appreciate you guys being here with me, and I'm catching up on the comments. I can finally see them this week on the phone. Last week they were a jumbled up mess. I'm seeing them this time, but my phone is so far away and my vision's not the best that I got my laptop pulled up over here. I think there's a little bit of a delayed reaction. So if I'm responding to some old comments, I apologize about that. But it looks like they're pretty close to being in sync. So we'll see how it goes. But again, and thank you guys so much for being here with me at the table. Been having a good time so far. We've been talking about the songs, and that was an old tune that got requested. So I think it was Moon Dude that asked for that. Man, thank you for remembering that one. A lot of people, yeah. But yeah, a lot of people don't remember that one, so I appreciate you for remembering it. Thank you, Tony Watson or Winston, for the tip. I really appreciate that. Again, those aren't required, but I really appreciate it when you guys do. Thanks for helping me do what it is that I do. But yeah, now I didn't. That guitar is not electric, so if it sounded like it was cutting in and out to you, that could have been the connection. I don't know, but I'm not plugged into anything, so there's that. But again, thanks Tony for the tip, and thanks all of you for that's hit that. I really appreciate it, and thanks, yeah, Moon Dude. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. It's always cool, man, because like I said earlier, I played so many dive bars in this part of the world for so long, and a lot of people came out to watch me back then and support me back then, and some still do. And for those that remembers those songs from back then, now that one used to get a big pop at the Mustang Lounge when I would play it. All I had to do was say the line, "Praise the Lord," and what, and the crowd would say the rest. So those were the best times of our lives right there. But yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, my bad. I misunderstood what you were saying. What is my favorite song to perform? Man, that's hard. That's really hard. I really enjoy playing certain cover tunes, and then there's certain ones of my own that I really do enjoy playing. Um, I enjoy playing the Laughing Buddha that I played earlier at the start of the show, and um, but there's certain cover tunes that I played over the years that for whatever reason I just kind of enjoyed more than others. I always loved the tune "Dead Flowers" by the Stones. It was kind of an obscure, not too obscure, but one of the more obscure Stones tunes. When you're playing bar rooms where everyone's dancing and things like that, it's better to hit like "Start Me Up" or "Miss You" or "It's Only Rock and Roll" or whatever. But "Jumpin' Jack Flash," those like that. But I always really enjoyed playing "Dead Flowers" for whatever reason. I also really enjoyed singing "The Road Goes On Forever" by Robert Earl Keen. But I can't do those on this show because YouTube will not allow me to monetize them. So I get hit with copyright claims if I do that. I learned that the hard way. The first, like back during the pandemic, I did a live stream here at the table, and I just busted into all kinds of tunes, which they allowed me to keep it up. It didn't count as a strike against my account or nothing like that. They allowed me to leave the video up, but it was like you can't monetize this video, and you can't play those tunes. And you'd be surprised at how fast that YouTube can catch that. I've literally. I remember it's not been maybe a year or so ago. I uploaded a Tom T. Hall cover. I think it was Whiskey Castles by Tom T. Hall. I uploaded that, and no joke, before I even got it done, before I even hit public and made it public, they had already sent me "Hey, that belongs to Tom T. Hall." So, but thank you to Daffy Daggers for the tip. I appreciate it. So yeah, they're quick on that, and that's why I don't play cover tunes on here. And it's also why that I had to start. I had to go through a big long process because what was funny is I was getting copyright claims on my own tunes because I had uploaded them through TuneCore. And when you upload through TuneCore goes out there and they look to see where your music's been played. So I mean, technically, I was getting paid either way. You know what I mean? But it was one of those things where all of a sudden they're like, you can't do that. Like all of a sudden I got a copyright claim on a tune I wrote. And I was like, hold on, how's that possible? I wrote that. And then I realized that when I reached out to YouTube and asked them, why did this song, I wrote this one. They was like, well, this belongs to Brandon Fulson. I was like, I'm him. That's me. They was like, well, did you upload it through TuneCore? And I said, yeah. And they said, okay, that's why they're claiming it on your behalf. And so, um, yeah, that was pretty funny. I almost got into one of those John Fogerty moments where he got sued for sounding like himself. But thank you to Martha. I really appreciate it. And again, I really do appreciate it when you guys hit the tip jar. Don't feel obligated to. I would be sitting here one way or the other doing it for you. I really enjoy what we're doing, but those tips do go a long way, and I appreciate them. So thank you for that. But yeah. So you have the same Buddha statue. That's really cool. I think I gave my grandson the other one. I ordered one off of I think Facebook Marketplace. I ordered one because I wanted to start taking one out to my gigs and setting it on my amp, and I didn't want to take this one because I was afraid I'd lose it, and I didn't want to lose the original. Because it's so easy when you're not playing music to just leave something sitting somewhere, and I didn't want to risk doing that. So I got online and I found one that looked exactly like this, but when I got it back, it was only like half the size. Same exact statue, same carving, but it was about that. It's about that big, and I was like, okay. I ended up one day, my grandson was over here, and he got to playing with it, and I was like, no, you take it. You may need it one day. I kind of just passed it on like my friend did. Now my son got me this one for, I don't remember if it was a Christmas present or what. My son got me a baby Buddha. We could let it hang out for a minute. But yeah, my son got me this baby Buddha, and I really enjoy it. I've got Buddhas sitting all over the place. It's just become something that people gifts to me now. It's just become one of those things that the people gift me. So we'll let them hang out here for a minute. But I've got a big one sitting out in the yard, and there's one on my stove. I got a couple up here. There's one over there. Quite a few. But I do have a picture of Jesus hanging in here too, believe it or not, because in the song Laughing Buddha, when I talk about, all the pictures I'd seen where Jesus looked sad, the line where I say, even knocking on my door, he had a sad look in his eye. My grandmother had the big version. I've got a small version up there, but my grandmother had a big, massive one with like the old school wooden frame around it. And it was Jesus knocking on the door. And my grandmother used to point out how that there's no door handle on that side. She's like, that's because you have to open the door. Jesus is knocking, but it's up to you whether you open the door or not. Whatever. But I got that, and when this Buddha is not sitting here on the table with me, I got a little shelf up there that I set him on, and the picture, the Jesus and the Buddha side by side. So yeah, for everyone that thinks, for all the commenters and the trolls, like he hates God, I promise I don't. I just hate hypocrisy, and so that's what we call out a lot of times. But yeah, I released some videos today. I hope you guys saw those. Thank you guys for sharing. It's amazing to me how many times the videos get shared when I post them. But I made one talking about one of my biggest pet peeves, and that is whenever someone says, well, he's a good guy once you get to know him. And like, okay, and they'll be like, well, man, he's a really good dude. He'll give the shirt off his back to you. He's a really good guy. He'll loan you money anytime you need it. I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. Now, he paid for the person's food behind him in a drive-through, right? And he did that in secrecy. He didn't want them knowing who it was. But when he got on social media, he was a bully. He was a keyboard warrior. He promoted a bunch of racism and bigotry and homophobia and transphobia. So when he was on the world stage where the world could see him talking, he was a prick. So what difference does it make if he drops a little extra money in the pot at church, or he walks by, and drops money in the Salvation Army bucket at Christmas time? Okay, good for you. But if you're out here being a bully and treating people like crap online, what good is it? That's always been one of my biggest pet peeves whenever people say that. It's just like okay, well, good for him. I mean, I heard. I'm a big boxing fan, and they was talking about back when Joe Louis boxed Max Schmeling, I think was his name. Max Schmeling was a German dude. Go watch that fight. I love boxing. If I get off talking about it, we'll be here the rest of the night. But Joe Louis knocked him stupid. I mean, you can hear him when Lewis hits him. You hear him grunt from it. It's that hard of a shot. Lewis knocked him out, but Max Schmeling got invited to dinner with Hitler, like several times. He kept turning him down because he didn't agree with Hitler. He kept turning him down, and finally he asked him like a third time, and someone warned Max Schmeling, and they said, "You don't turn down the Fuhrer 3 times. You don't do that." And so he went and ate, and they asked him, said, "How did it go? What kind of guy was he?" And he said, "He was an excellent hostess. He was a really nice guy at the table." Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure he was, but on the world stage, he was a prick. And so that's kind of the same thing with a lot of these people, man. It's like, God, like just because just because they tip the waitress a little bit more than you do, don't I mean, but then they're online demonizing people that work in fast food and tell them they need to get a better job. It's just ridiculous. So I made that video and it's out there circulating today. I saw several people had shared it. I appreciate that. And I also made one talking about Don Jr. wanting his courtroom sketch to look sexy. I thought that was one of the most ridiculous things that I ever heard. Was he was more worried about his courtroom sketch looking sexy than he was all the bullshit that he's in. His whole family's on trial for fraud. He's on trial for fraud, and his main concern is, does my sketch look good? So I posted that one, and there was one more I posted. I can't remember what it was at the moment, but but thank you. I appreciate you guys for being here with me. Uh, I'll tell you what. I will. I did come across some photos of me back years ago playing in the bands. I'll be posting. I'll post some of those on YouTube. Or you also need to follow me if you're not following me on Instagram. You can find me under TN Brando. Thank you, Billy, for the tip. Tell everyone how you got your first guitar. Pretty cool story. So Billy's heard the story. That's awesome. Um, and I thank you, Billy. Thank you for remembering that. Again, it's always super cool, man. There was times I didn't realize people was listening, I guess, and you guys were, so that's super cool. Well, also thanks to Cecil. Thank you so much for the tip on PayPal. I've got that also in the description of the video. But Billy wants me to tell the story of how I got my first guitar, um, and I will. It's just weird having the second Buddha. She made a cameo, or he, whatever it is, made a cameo. It's just kind of a little weird to me. But anyway, telling the story about the first guitar, and I'll play you a tune on it here in a second. But yeah, this is it right here. This is the first guitar that I ever got. It is a Sigma made by Martin. My dad got it at Broadway Sound back in the early 90s for like $250. That's how much he paid for it. And this is the guitar that I learned how to play on. This is the guitar that I cut my teeth on. And what happened was, uh, my childhood dream. This is pretty funny, but my childhood dream wasn't to be a musician. My childhood dream was to be a professional wrestler. I had high hopes to be the next Ric Flair, and so that was what I wanted to do. And there used to be this wrestling group come through this part of the world. They come through Middlesboro and Harrogate and different places wrestling. And I don't know if any of y'all remember the name Buddy Landale, but he was like a Dollar General Ric Flair, like a poor man's Ric Flair. And but he was a great worker, a great guy too. I got to meet him and hang out with him and everything. But I just got to hanging around those wrestlers back when I was a teenager, and I wanted to become a wrestler. And so they told me that if I could come up with, I think it was like $2,000 or something like that, that Buddy Landell could train me. And so I'm like all excited wanting to do that. And growing up in Southeast Kentucky, my family they were big into coon hunting, raccoon hunting. My grandfather, Lindsey Fuson, his claim to fame was that he actually had a dog that was in one of those magazines. It barked like so many times on a tree. I can't remember, but that was a big deal in our family, was coon hunting. And so my dad had gave me this Walker Coonhound that I'd raised up from a pup, and I'd kind of got away from going hunting with my dad and everybody. And every time he wanted to go, I just stayed home and there for a while. And so one day he said to me, he said, "Well, he said, you've not been hunting in a long time, so I'll tell you what, if you're not going to go hunting anymore." We were kind of struggling at the time, and he was like, "I'm going to sell that dog," because it was a registered Walker Coonhound, and those things go for high dollar in this part of the world. And Dad's like, "I'm gonna go ahead and sell that since you're not going hunting anymore." And I was like, "Well, wait a minute, you can't sell my dog. I need money to go to wrestling school." And Dad's like, "I'm not gonna give you money for a dog that I gave you and a dog that I paid for the food and fed half the time, and you don't even go hunting anymore." He said, "I'm not gonna do that." And so anyway, we um, he walked away, and I was like, "Well, crap, he's not gonna give me the money for the dog. And so he comes back a little while later and he's holding this guitar. And he's like, hey, he's like, you know what? He's like, I could probably get $250 out of that dog. He said, and 250 is what I gave for this guitar new at Broadway Sound. He's like, so how about we just swap the dog for the guitar? He said, you don't use the dog anymore. You don't go hunting anymore. And I don't use this guitar. So how about we just swap? Well, at the time, I had been writing poems and I had them in a notebook. And I just hadn't showed them to anybody because, a couple of people that did know about it kind of poked fun at me over it. And so I was kind of shy and quiet back then. And I didn't want to tell everybody that I had this book of like love poems in my book. And so he's like, he said, you could learn how to play, learn you some chords. You might even write you some songs on it or something. And when he said that, I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe I could take these songs or these poems and turn them into songs. And so I took this guitar and immediately, once my dad showed me how to play G, C, and D, and like D, A, and G. And I remember the first two songs that he showed me, and I don't remember which one came first. I don't remember which. I just worked on both of them at the same time, basically. It was Is Anybody Going to San Antonio by Charlie Pride, and it was Tiger by the Tail by Buck Owens. Those are the two tunes that I sat and worked on. Again, I can't play covers on here, but I just sat and strummed those those 3-chord songs, those 2 3-chord songs till I could learn how to change chords. And then once I figured out how the chords changed and stuff, I started going into my notebook and digging in and trying to figure out how to write my own songs. And so, thanks, Billy, for even remembering that story. I really appreciate it. So that's how I came about getting this very guitar. Now, fast forward, that was 96, 95, 96 when that happened. So you fast forward all those years later, around 2008, somewhere through there, my dad retired from driving a log truck. He drove a log truck for 20 some years. Before that, he drove a coal truck. So my dad was a truck driver for about 30 years. And when he retired, he started coming out to my shows and hanging with us. Then he started driving us around. So we'd go on a road trip somewhere. Dad would be the driver. And that went on for a long time. And then I moved to Knoxville and lived there for a while. And Dad would drive me to my shows and stuff. And one night we played down at the Corn Pond Tavern, this little biker bar on Clinton Highway. And I got pretty lit that night. I remember I got really drunk after the show. And my dad drove me home. And so on the way home, Dad starts telling me about his first divorce, which he had never talked about ever. And it was forbidden to talk about it. It's like, you don't mention that around my dad. He never would allow us to talk about it or ask questions. He would get really upset if you even tried to ask a question about that. And so when he starts talking about it, I kind of perked up. I started sobering up real fast. Like, man, I've been waiting like 30 some years to hear this story. So I started listening to him, and he just sat there and told all about it, told everything that happened from his perspective and everything. And I was like, damn. And he told me the story about how that while he was out there going through this rough divorce, that this is back in the days. This is back before like your drinking and driving laws got really strict. This is probably 75, 76, somewhere in there. And Dad said it wasn't nothing, back then for cops to pull you over, and you could have a beer sitting in your cup holder, and cops wouldn't really do much about it as long as you weren't drunk or swerving too bad. And so Dad gets out and he's going through this horrible divorce and everything, and he goes out and he starts driving around Middlesboro, Kentucky. Him and his cousin, they're drinking and just driving around town. And maybe he got to swerving a little bit or whatever the case may be. All of a sudden, this cop got behind him. My dad really didn't like the guy, so instead of stopping like he should have, he just floored it and shot up Cumberland Avenue in Middlesboro, Kentucky in his and that guy. And there's a video, by the way, if you want to hear my dad tell the story, the video is on YouTube. Just look up the story behind Middlesboro 1974, Brandon Fulson. That's Fulson. Also, I spelled Middlesboro the original way. It's MiddleSBOROUGH. UGH is the original spelling. And so that if you want to check the song I'm about to play, if you want to hear the full band version and hear my dad tell the story behind it, he tells the story about how that when they got up there past the Yellow Creek School and started up toward Fondee Mountain, that police officer, he said you couldn't hardly fit anything between him. He was right on his bumper. And Now my cousin is over here hanging on for dear life, and he's screaming to my dad to stop. Like, please stop. You're going to kill You're going to kill us. We're not going to make it out of this one alive. And so there's this really sharp curve once you get up there. Once you pass Yellow Creek School and you start on up toward Fondue Mountain, you get around there a little ways. There's this really sharp curves, almost like an S, and it's really sharp. And Dad said that right as they got to that curve, that my cousin screamed out as loud as he could, "You will never make this curve. You're going to kill us both." And when Dad said that, I said, "That'd be a great song. Like, that would be awesome, if I wrote a song from the cousin's point of view. Just imagine you're with this dude who has lost his mind over some woman, and now he's out drinking, and you're in the car with him, and the police is chasing you, and you can't get him to stop." I thought, if you wrote a song from that dude's point of view, that would be pretty cool. And so I just kept that line stuck in my head. And when I went home next morning, and I don't know why, but back in those days, I always for whatever reason, wrote most of my songs in the morning time, like after a show. I'd be laying there hungover, and that's kind of when I wrote my music. It's weird, but I wrote this tune about it. It's called Middlesboro, 1974. It's been a while, but I hope I can remember it. Change picks. You'll never make this curve, boy. You're gonna kill us both. I don't wanna be remembered by a cross on the road. I know you hold a grudge, son, and that deputy's a punk. That woman, she ain't worth it, so why'd you have to run? If she moves as good as she looks, I'd lose my marbles too. Didn't know I was sealing fate when I got in this car with you. You were always the quiet one. I never knew you had this side. Never thought I'd be the passenger on your final ride. Candy cigarettes and Converse shoes, red trucker caps just trying to look cool. Bubba's Cola was all we could afford. In 6th grade Miss Cooper's class, we laughed at Jimmy when he pooped his pants. Friend, I don't want to die over your whore. Middlesboro, 1974. You'll never clear your holster. You're going out in a blaze. If I'm guilty by association, I guess it's time to pray. And if I make it out alive, should I ask her why? Would she laugh in my face, or would she hang her head and cry? It was a quick stop Saturday, a Southern thrill ride, 12-pack, few snacks and crazy eyes. I never should have opened this old Impala door. Guns blazing, hammered down. Is that an old haggard sound? He just smiled as he put the pedal to the floor. back in Middlesboro, 1974. All right, thank y'all so much. That one is actually that one is on my album Dark Side of the Mountain, and it closed Dark Side of the Mountain. So that's under Brandon Fulson. If you look up Brandon Fulson, you can find that album Dark Side of the Mountain. I always tell people too that those two albums are companion pieces. They're meant to be listened back to back because it's one big long story, and the narrator is telling the story. And so there's a whole lot of stories on there about Middlesboro, Kentucky, where I was raised, and the surrounding area. And I've always told people that, the Dark Side of the Mountain album is more of your Kentucky stories, and then the Forgotten Appalachia is more the Tennessee side of the stories. So go check those out. That's Brandon Fulson, Fulson, and you can hear that song, and you can see. I'll go ahead and tell you ahead of time, if you ever dive in and listen to those albums, there's definitely some little hidden Easter eggs in there. There's all sorts of references to other characters in the song. So that album ends with a high speed police chase, and the other album opens with a prison scene. So it all goes together if you ever check it out. But I really appreciate you guys, and thanks so much to Billy for asking for the story behind my first guitar. That's the story, and that's the guitar, and the song was about my dad. And it's hard singing about my dad because the truth of the matter is that cop had no idea who he was chasing. My dad is on a different level. So yeah, but yeah, there's growing up in that part of the world. I remember a time when I very first started writing songs, and I was writing about different things. People would always say to me, write something universal, write something that everybody can relate to and everybody knows about, and all this. Thank you so much, Jeff. Oh man, if I could remember that tune, thank you so much for that tip. If I can remember that tune, I'll definitely play it. It's been a long time since I played that one. Dang. Let me think on that one just for a minute. You pulled out a real obscure one, but yeah, growing up in that part of the world, I remember. I remember writing songs, and I would get to the spot in the song where that I would say to myself, I need to name drop some popular place so everybody will know what it is. And I remember one time I was writing a tune, and I needed to name drop a bar, and I couldn't think of nothing. I started trying to think of these famous bars in like Texas and places, shit like that. And so anyway, I was sitting there, and I thought, I've never been to those places. I've never been there before. Why should I do that? Why don't I just name drop the bar I'm playing at this weekend? And I was playing at a little bar up on the state line between Winfield, Tennessee, and Whitley County, Kentucky, and it's called the Wooden Nickel. It's not there anymore. Well, it's there, but they turned it into a little sports bar now. But back in the day, it was a rowdy little honky tonk called the Wooden Nickel. And I was like, instead of saying one night he was picking at Billy Bob's or one night he was picking somewhere that I've never been, why not just name drop the nickel? And so I did. And then I just started doing it with everything around our part of the world. I just started name dropping our part of the world and in my songs. And along the way, I would have people say, well, nobody knows where that's at. And I'm like, well, they'll get here eventually. No one knew where Copperhead Road was till Steve Earle wrote about it, and I had to go see where it was. So it's like, but Jeff wanted to hear the Edge, and I'm going to be dead honest with you guys. He really caught me on the spot with this one. I don't know if I can get through it, Jeff, to be dead honest with you, but I'll play it as much as I can remember of it. I'll at least tell the story behind it. And this is from my album, The Brimstone Sessions, which was recorded at the Brimstone Studio, not far from Winfield. This was down in Huntsville, around the Huntsville, Oneida area is where it was from, where I recorded the song. But anyway, hopefully I can remember it. But if not, I'll get through what I can of it. But back then I got into drinking really hard, and I got into drugging really hard and things like that, and I just got really carried away with it. and I was just right on the edge all the time. And the funny part is, I'm just going to get real raw and honest with you guys here on this one. I really didn't have a too rough of a childhood. I mean, my family struggled, but I had two very supportive parents. They weren't nobody to rebel against or nothing like that. They've always been very supportive of me and still are to this day. So there wasn't no problems there, and I never was mistreated, or I was always taken care of. But when I got out there playing music, I felt like that the only way that I could actually, you know, write songs was I had to live it. It was like if you didn't live it, why write about it? And I was a big Hunter S. Thompson fan. I still am. There's a painting back there behind me of Gonzo. Um, but I went out and got the tattoo of the Gonzo fist, buy the ticket, take the ride. That's been my motto ever since I learned about it, ever since I read it in high school. And so, anyway, there's a line in Hell's Angels where he says, "The edge, there's no honest way to explain it because the only ones who truly know where it is are the ones who have gone over." And that just really stayed stuck in my head. And for a long time, I wanted to see kind of where the edge was, and I wanted to live my songs and write them as I lived them. And what I like to do is I like to, if I had a really wild and crazy and rowdy night somewhere, I'd write a song about it, and I'd come back the next time and I'd say to the audience, "Hey, you remember last week when we got all messed up? Well, here's a song about it." I just started writing about the places I was in and the things I was doing, and that way, if someone says, "Well," and to me, it was, to be dead honest with you, I never had no desire. Honest to God, I'm one musician who had absolutely zero desire to go to Nashville and quote chase the dream. I never wanted to do that. And I went to Nashville recently to visit, and I watched Jason Isbell, which was one of the best shows I've seen. I finally got to see a show at the Ryman. It was awesome. But I went out on the strip, and I was like, God, I don't think I'll ever come back here again. I'm definitely going to go down there and drink a beer in Garth's Bar just to be just to do it after writing that song. But I went down there on that strip, man, and there's people playing on every corner and just begging to be seen. And I was like, man, this sucks. And so I never wanted to go to Nashville and chase the dream. I wanted to buy the ticket and take the ride, and I wanted to write my songs and live them and be able to say, hey, that really close call we had, here's a song about it. So I got to thinking about that, and that life that I lived back then. And again, Jeff, I really appreciate you tipping me, and I appreciate you asking for this tune because no one ever does. But I played it on a baritone, by the way, and I actually did that whole album pretty much on this guitar. But anyway, one morning I was sitting there watching YouTube, and I saw my cousin preaching on YouTube, and here I was like in this really dark state, and I was like, damn. I was like, he was playing his guitar while he was preaching, and I just remember looking at it, and I was like, well, I taught him how to play that, and he's playing in church, and he's preaching a sermon about the very bar that I just got done playing at. So it's like, well, we're full circle here, pal. And so I wrote this tune, and Jeff, if I don't get all the way through it, I'm sorry, but I do appreciate you for asking for it. Taught the preacher man how to pick his guitar. Now he's out saving souls. Last night I deflowered a virgin, so I'm here laying low. Traded my Washburn to the dealer, my favorite one I ever owned. He wasn't buying till I played him the Blackbird, and he started digging the tone. Walked away from a good one, I never really knew her at all. She claims to have forgave me, but I know she's waiting for me to fall. I made friends I thought I would die for, now they all faded away. I thought I made love to some angels, now I can't remember their name. I've been worn down by guilt, beat down by hate. I made it back up and took the stand and ate. I've been through hell, came out charred from the flames. This won't be the last time things go awry, but I've learned to look death straight in the eye. down on the edge of obscurity and fame. The kids were grown before I knew it. Now they come to me for advice. Remember that man when you were little. Just don't ever be that guy. If my sons can learn from my mistakes, they'll be a hell of a man. But it seems like the older that I get, the less I understand. I've been worn down by guilt, knocked down by hate. I made it back up and took the stand in 8. I've been through hell and came out charred from the flames. This won't be the last time things go awry, but I've learned to stare death straight in the eye, down on the edge of obscurity and fame. I reside on the edge of obscurity and fame. All right, I can't believe I remembered that one, Jeff. I was sitting there going, damn, how did that come back to me? But it's a story, and so once you start telling it, you just kind of get locked in it. That's kind of the best way that I can describe. People say, how do you remember the words to all those songs? I don't always, first of all. Second of all, you just start telling a story, and you just remember where you're at in the story. And if you can do that, you're doing all right. But thank you. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And, that line about being on the edge of obscurity and fame, I kind of got the inspiration for that line from the fact that, going back to what I was talking about earlier when I said you'll open up for people and you never meet them, you never see them. I have opened up for people in packed rooms, like sold out rooms, like be it like Johnson City, Bristol, somewhere, be it a bar, be packed, you couldn't fit another person in it, and the crowd be roaring and cheering to your songs and like, yay, and like everybody coming up to you wanting autographs and patting you on the back and telling you how great you are. I remember doing some shows with Jesco White in Johnson City, and man, they were slam packed to the brim and everybody was cheering and requesting songs, and it was awesome. And then the next night you're over playing at Porky's Pool Hall to like 2 people. It's like shit, like why couldn't I keep that momentum up? It's like you're obscure one minute, you're famous the next. And that's kind of what my life was like for 25 years. It was just kind of like, okay, I'm opening up for Ray Wiley Hubbard, the place is packed, it's slammed out. The next night I'm at Palancho's in Middlesboro playing to 10 people, wondering why there's even been music played in Middlesboro. I mean, and I really appreciate them having me there. I played there several times, but I can't count the number of people that walk up and go, why are they having music in here for? I ain't never done that before. What are they doing having music at the Mexican place? I'm like, well, they do that in bigger towns. They actually do. This is actually quite common in other parts of the world. But yeah, it definitely does keep you humble. That's definitely true. Yeah, I did some shows with Jesco and lived to tell about it. I'll tell you one thing about Jesco White. I'll tell you one thing about Jesco White is that's not an act. For any of you that have ever seen him and thought, I don't know if that's real or not. No, he's not acting. That is really him. And if you go back to the start of the show, if you just tuned in and you're new here, you go back to the start of the show. I talked about my song "Manufactured Twang," which I name dropped him in. If you go online, look up Brandon Fulson, Fulson, and Jesco White, you'll find it. You'll find me and him doing the Manufactured Twang. I also played the Legend of D. Ray White by Hank III, and I think there's one of him I'm playing like he might have he definitely danced to my song $3 Wine. He might have I think he danced to Praise the Lord Pass the Pills too. I don't know if there's a video of that, but I'm almost certain he danced to it. And he pretty much danced to my set. But I did 2 shows with him, like a Friday and Saturday there in Johnson City. I think it was the Galaxy Lounge was the name of the place. Not sure if it's still there. But I remember on night 1, they said they were giving away $20 Jesco tattoos. You can get a Jesco tattoo for $20. And they said the first person, whoever will go first, will get a free one. And I was like, what the hell's a Jesco tattoo? And they said, well, he just autographs you wherever you want to be autographed at. He'll autograph you somewhere on your body, and we'll just tattoo it on you. I ain't doing that. So I sat there for a while, and I kept drinking and hanging out with Jesco. And like I said, that's really how he is. He's that's the real person. And so I'm just sitting there, hanging out with him, and they kept, anybody want to take us up on these tattoos? And like, finally, I was like, screw it, I will. And so I don't know if you guys can see it with my, well, shit. The camera is backwards, but right there it is underneath my thing. There's the Jesco White signature. And he tried to write TCB right here. It's supposed to stand for taking care of business. And he tried to put the little dancing feet on there. Sorry, I can't get it any closer. The camera's backwards, kind of messing with me, but yeah, there it is. Jesco. So, yeah. Buy the ticket, take the ride. That's what happened there. I woke up the next morning, I was like Jimmy Buffett, when he says, he woke up with a Mexican cutie, and how it got here, he hadn't a clue. That was my Jimmy Buffett tattoo, because I woke up the next morning, I was like, golly, like, my arm is on fire. I was like, why is my wrist on fire for? And yeah, it's because I've got Jesco permanently tattooed. So there we go. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys for being here with me here at the table, and we're going to go for a little while longer. It's been going by fast. Hell, we've already been here. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize it was actually getting that late. It feels like we just got started. But I really want to thank you guys so much for being here. Man, it means a lot to me to have you guys here. To have this many people tuned in, watching. It's super cool. I'm going to do you a song since I got the baritone guitar out. My good buddy, John Baker, who, by the way, if you've not checked it out yet, for those of you that don't know, I do have a podcast called If These Hills Could Talk. My last episode, I had John T. Baker, who's the owner of the Arbor Studio in Knoxville, where I record all my music. He's also the producer on my records and plays bass, and hell, he's a multi-instrumentalist. He can play bass, guitar, keyboards, percussion, whatever you need. He's been on every album I've done since Dark Side of the Mountain, with the exception of the Brimstone sessions. That's the only one-off that I did at Odell's. But I had John on the show, and I had Wayne Bledsoe, who is a Knoxville music journalist and has been for 30 or 40 years now. And so Wayne has interviewed everybody from Ray Charles to Merle Haggard to Rush Limbaugh. And so he came on and told the stories about that. So be sure to check out If These Hills Could Talk on wherever you listen to podcasts. Just look up If These Hills Could Talk, TN Brando, and you'll find it. I've also on there, I've interviewed Coach D from Midas Touch, Texas Paul from Midas Touch. I interviewed Gloria Johnson, who's running for Senate against Marsha Blackburn, and we're really pulling for her that she gets that when we really need her in there. She's a great person too. She came to the studio, and it was just like meeting somebody you'd known your whole life, and she knows her stuff. She really knows what she's saying. It's genuine, which is really hard to find these days amongst politicians. But going back to what I was originally saying, John Baker had a baritone guitar at the Arbor. Well, he still does, a baritone electric guitar at the Arbor Studio, and I just loved that guitar, and I borrowed it and ended up writing this next tune on it. And when I took it back to the studio, I was like, God, I got to get a baritone, and so I got this one from Sweetwater Music. It's an Alvarez baritone, and they just have a different tonal quality to them. I definitely need new strings for it. It's still got the same strings when I got it, so they've been on there a long ass time. I'm glad you said that. No, I haven't talked with Richard Ojeda. I was scheduled to talk to him like a year or so ago, and I remember I got really, really sick. I didn't have COVID, but I thought I did. And I ended up, we never ended up making that happen, but he is someone I would definitely love to talk to. And I'm sorry that, our wires just got crossed up and we missed each other. I was scheduled to talk to him, and then just came down with that is like the sickest I've ever been. But I tested for COVID I think 4 or 5 times. I did several home tests, and I went to be tested. At least I went 3 times to be tested, and they all came back negative. And then I took 2 home tests. They both came back negative. Now, I've had COVID twice, but that is the sickest I ever was, and I missed out on talking to Richard. So I definitely need to get back in touch with him, because I would love to talk with him. But I ended up writing this tune here on a baritone guitar, and then it made me have to order one of my own. And so once I got my own, I just started writing all kinds of tunes on it. For those of you, guitar heads out there that loves guitars, loves talking guitars, Like if I'm making a G chord, it all plays the same. I mean, you fret it, you chord it the same exact way. It's just now if I'm strumming a G chord, I'm actually in the key of D now. And if I go to D, I'm in A. And if I go to C, I'm in G. So, yeah. But I'm going to play you a tune, and I want to welcome the members, Brando fans. I see Deborah's popped in here. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all the YouTube members. And if you haven't checked those out yet, be sure to check out the YouTube memberships. I think you guys really enjoy it. But this tune here is now under Tennessee Brando with the full band behind me backing me up on it. This was also on my album Forgotten Appalachia, which is under Brandon Fulson, Fulson. It's nice hanging out with you guys too. I really appreciate it. But this tune's out there now. It's the last single. I released it back on October 20th. It's also going to be on Shots of Truth Volume 2, which is coming out on Black Friday. But I got the inspiration for this song from a friend of mine who was recovering from drug addiction. And she had beat all the hard stuff, and she had kicked the alcohol. There's just one little thing that she wasn't able to give up, and that was her reefer. And you know, I'm of the nature that, you know, that's a natural, you know, plant that grows up out of the ground. I've never understood why it was illegal. It's like making a tomato illegal to me. It never made sense. And so there was people on Facebook. She had made a post about how people had been talking bad about her and giving her a hard time over it. And I just remember reading those comments of people telling her, you know, that that was the gateway drug and all this BS. And I just sat there and read her comment section, and I wrote this tune and called it Hillbilly Angel. It's been 18 months since she kicked that demon. 6 a.m. and the baby screaming, the cold trucks woke up Maggie again. She still likes her reefer in the morning, gets tired of hearing her shrink a warning. Now she's one toke away from a gateway back to sin. Works part-time down at Conley's Drive-In. Such a great time to be alive in. The old men hang around to watch her sway. Some like to flirt and some talk shitty. Pick up lines worse than Conway Twitty. She smiles through gritted teeth for her take-home pay. She left Pat Fork and she headed for the crater, just to get away from all of the haters. She goes home alone, she's nobody's darling. When she smiles, she looks just like Harlan. Who'd have thought she'd ever live to tell? She's a hillbilly angel on a mountain that's blown to hell. Figures coming back, the family's talking. Some try to say she's out street walking, but she's out on the porch taking selfies on Instagram. Her ex-old man's out causing a riot. I heard he's back on that Jenny Crank diet. Looks back and can't believe she ever gave a damn. Well, Mama says, girl, you really need Jesus. She's too busy crushing on Norman Reedus. Besides, she can't go out on a Sunday night. Gets lost in her songs every time she hears them. Caught up in the groove and addicted to the lyrics. If anyone asks, tell them she's doing alright. Yeah, she goes home alone, ain't nobody's darling. When she talks, she sounds just like Harlan. Who'd have thought she'd ever live to tell? She's a hillbilly angel on a mountain that's blown to hell. Just a hillbilly angel on a mountain that's blown to hell. right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. That was Hillbilly Angel. That one's available wherever it is that you listen to your music. Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Google Play, whatever it is you listen to. They're all available there. Thank you guys so much for asking for that. But yeah, my first concert, I don't remember it, but my mom's got pictures from it. But the very first concert that I ever went to, I was probably 3, and it was Conway Twitty at Tombstone Junction. And my mom's got some pictures of that. There was a picture of me with Conway Twitty, and I don't know if we lost it or what happened. I've not seen that picture in years. But I've always been looking for it forever. We've got pictures of his tour bus and pictures of him on the stage, but I could have swore we had one of him off the stage when my mom got his autograph, but we don't. Anyway, or if I can't. One day, if I ever come across that picture, I'm going to jump up and down. I can't wait to show it to you guys. But the reason that I put that line in there, about the pickup line's worse than Conway Twitty, is because going back to the stories about playing in all those dive bars, you got to hear me out on this one. Play in places like the Mustang Lounge, which is dear to my heart. I'll always love that place. But play in bars like the Mustang Lounge in Tazewell, Starlight in Jellicoe, Tennessee, Wooden Nickel in Winfield, all the different places that I played, just backwoods dive bars, VFWs, American Legion halls, whatever. I started playing in the early 2000s. It's when I started kind of hitting the bar scene. And, you would have these guys out there that had just came back. They hadn't been in a bar since the 70s. And they were all dressed like Luke Duke, with these blue checkered shirts on, their shirts tucked in, their pointed toe cowboy boots, and their hair dye in their hair, really overdone. Look like that guy Billy Mays from all those commercials. Get the new vacuum, like that guy. And then they would hit on the young girls, and it would just be so cringeworthy. It was I can't remember, there's a movie. God, what is that movie with? Is it Adam Sandler where he kind of goes back out into the world after being, I can't remember who's in that movie. It's some ridiculous comedy where they've not been in the party scene for a long time, and then they go out there and they're wearing parachute pants. It's kind of the same thing, except, all of a sudden you had these redneck dudes dressed up like Bo and Luke Duke, and suddenly they're back at the Mustang, and they've not been in there since the 70s. They got married, settled down, got them a job, and then they went through a midlife crisis, and they hit the bars. And I can't count the nights that girls will walk up to me and say, "Hey, can I tell that old guy over there that I'm with you so he'll leave me alone?" I'd be like, "Sure, go ahead." But thank you, Lee, so much for the tip. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy playing the music and telling you guys the stories, and thank you so much for that tip again. They're not required or anything like that, but for all of you that have been hitting them here on YouTube and hitting my virtual tip jars on PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App, that's available in the description, by the way. For all you guys that's hitting that, I really, really do appreciate you so much. And, we're coming up on the holiday season, and I know times are tough, so I'm not here to grift. but I truly do appreciate all of the tips. But going back to that story, they would just be in the most cringeworthy way, and they would request Conway Twitty tunes because he was the big hit back before they quit going to bars. And suddenly they're wanting to hear that song, and I'd love to lay you down, like that. And I can tell you've never been this far before. All Conway Twitty's music was always about, he was always kind of going after younger women. I can tell you've never been in a bar. I can't wait to get in your tight fitting jeans. And those old dudes would always request that song, or always request Conway songs. And so that's why I threw that in. I've had some people look at me sideways when I say, with pickup lines worse than Conway Twitty. I'm not necessarily saying Conway's bad. I'm just saying watching them request him is horrible. Oh, there was some cringeworthy people that just these old dudes. It's just God, man. And the only silver lining in that cloud is that they really inspired me not to do that. So now when I'm out at a bar, I'm just sitting there kind of quieter. I'm just sitting on a bar stool, minding my business. It's I'm not going to be up there asking the band to play Conway Twitty so I can, it's ridiculous. But yeah, we're having a good time here on this Friday, and I'm going to be back here again on Black Friday. So you're gonna have Thanksgiving, which I hope everybody has a good one. And then you're going to have Black Friday, which I always avoid at all costs. I went one time back when my youngest son's mom was expecting him, I think. That's when I went last. try to get her a phone. And I was like, this is ridiculous, man. This is like the last time I'm ever going to endure this. But so you'll have Black Friday, you'll have the holidays, you'll have the stress of Black Friday, and then we'll just come on here and we'll just wind down with some tunes and some stories and some things like that. But I really appreciate you uh, for being here. Oh man, Vol Queen got a great comment here. It says, "Are you writing a song now? Is it about DeSantis's high heel boots?" I'll tell you one thing. That is a song waiting to happen if there ever was. So just give me a minute. I'll have that one. I don't have a song about Ron DeSantis yet, which is kind of odd. He's gave us so much material, for sure. But yeah, I did see a clip of Willie on Colbert. I did see a clip of that. But I saw someone earlier mentioning that I didn't see their comment. So if I didn't see your comment, just say it again. It's not they're going by really fast on my phone. I can see them this time, but the writing's small and they're going by super fast. So I've got my laptop up over here and I'm seeing what you guys are saying. Somebody wanted to know. Yeah, that is. Let's see where we at. That is beautiful Bobby Eaton, the wrestler back here. If someone was asking who that was. I'm a big wrestling fan, and my favorite wrestling. I'm a child of the '80s, and so my favorite was Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, and Jim Cornette. I listen to Jim Cornette's podcast all the time, and he's the perfect dude for me because he likes the same kind of wrestling I do, and he's a bleeding heart liberal. So it's like the best of both worlds. I get to hear him talk about wrestling and rant about politics, and so it's pretty cool. But yeah, man, it's hard to believe Willie Nelson's 90-year-old and still out there going. So for anybody that says pot's a bad thing, he's he's definitely defeated that argument. But we got Massachusetts in the house. Glad you made it. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. I love The Undertaker too. I never got to see The Undertaker wrestle. Yeah, well, we would have to. We could do if these heels like that, like wrestling heels. Yeah, we'll have to do that. Have that version. But yeah, I grew up on that. Now I'm sidetracked, but that caught my attention, and that's great. It would be I've always one night I used to do a. It's not there anymore. We used to have a really cool internet radio station called Real Knoxville Music, and for about a year and a half, 2 years almost, I did a show on there called Serious Honk, which was a joke. But I did a show on there and had Josh Smith from Handsome and the Humbles on the show. Well, Josh Smith's dad is Izzy Slapowitz, who was a legendary wrestler in like the Kentucky territory. Thank you so much for the tip. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all of you. But yeah, so I had Josh on there, and we talked about music for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I was like, "Your dad's Izzy Slapowitz. I got to ask you about that." And so we started joking about it. Like we ended up talking about wrestling more than we did music, and I ended up saying, "Well, we're gonna have to change the name of this to Real Knoxville Wrestling," because we talked about it from then on. But glad glad to see you guys here. We got Troy the Troll. So the funny part, I'll have to say this: I don't like that dude. I can't think of his name. He's the Dollar General Alex Jones that wears the toboggan. And he's always talking like this. He's really mad. Antifa beat me up one time and I'm pissed. That guy. Tim Pool. I can't stomach that dude. I've never went into one of his lives. Never commented. Don't give a shit. But some people enjoy it. So have fun, Troy. Okay, cool. I'll definitely have to check out the cannabis channel. But yeah. We appreciate all of you. South Carolina is here. Yeah, I always like it when you guys tell me where you're from because I'm sitting in sleepy little Cumberland Gap, Tennessee, and so yeah. But well, thank you guys for being here with me. Wyoming, cool. I did a video about Tim Pool on Midas Touch, and I was hoping he would see it. I was dying for him to call me out. I did get called out by that Officer Tatum dude, the black conservative. He did a video of mine. He took one of my videos and you know had fun with it. Whatever. I made one back, so that's just how it goes. It's I don't take offense at that stuff, really. I really don't. Um, like I still stand by what I had to say, and if he wants to stand by what he has, I always say this. This is how I look at it, folks. To just be dead honest, and this might be a very simple, elementary way to look at it, but whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever it is I'm talking about or saying, or whatever song I've written, or whatever, I ask myself every time, is this a hill I'm willing to die on? And if it is, then I go ahead and say it. I go ahead and write the song. And I don't care about what consequences comes from it. Going back earlier to something I talked about earlier in the show, for those of you that just tuned in, I talked about how, someone asked for my old tune from the Real Billy days, Praise the Lord and Pass the Pills. And I talked about how, yeah, that song got me barred from playing a lot of festivals in a lot of places. There was a whole lot of people that wouldn't have me because I wrote that song. And they were afraid I was going to play it. And I would have played it. But here's the kicker, that's their platform. So earlier when I made that comment and I said, yeah, if you never saw me at the Levitt Theater, that's why. Well, I don't hold it against the Levitt Theater. That's their platform. They have every right to say, we don't want to be associated with what it is you're saying. So cool. I wrote that song and it was a hill I was willing to die on. And if that means I don't get to play at your shindig, I don't give a shit. If that means I never play another dive bar in my life, I don't give a shit, because I'm willing to stand here and tell you what it is that I believe, because I feel like the issues at hand are more important than somebody tipping me to play wagon wheel for them again. I don't have no desire to do that anymore. And so, as far as, Officer Tatum taking one of my videos and roasting me in his own way, go for it, Officer Tatum. Have at it. Do all you want to. Send it over to Candace Owens. You two just, have a field day with it. I don't care, because I'm speaking from a place, and it's a hill I'm willing to die on. Are you willing to do that too? If you are, cool. You know, this whole idea, people get bent out of shape that when they're talking about freedom of speech, they think that means you're free of consequences. You're not. And I realize there's consequences for what you say. There's people that aren't going to like what you have to say. There's people who might have been your friend once upon a time ain't going to like what you have to say. In my case, being a musician for 25 years, there's probably people that'll never come back to a show. There's probably people that'll never tune in if I'm playing here on YouTube or wherever. Fine. That's your business. I don't begrudge you for it. Go for it. It's a free country, and I don't want to be aligned with certain people, and if they don't want to be aligned with me, I get it. But I made a video and responded to Officer Tatum, but I don't go on his lives and troll him, because I really don't care. I don't value his opinion enough to give him my time. Other than when he called me out, then I'll respond to it. Minnesota. I've never been there. Really, folks, to be dead honest with you guys, I'm 43 years old. I know the trolls gonna say you look 60. Well, I feel it, but I've just been around the South mostly. I've been to all the southern states, and I made it out to Texas and New Mexico, Oklahoma, passed through there. But and I did go to California only one time to sit at the airport, like on a layover kind of deal. I didn't actually get to go to California. I mean, I just sat at the LA airport for about 3 hours. But I've really not, I've traveled mostly around the South most of my life, and been up to Indiana and Ohio, been to Illinois, but been up to DC, but I've not been to the Northeast. I've not been to the Northwest, and those are those are places on my bucket list to hit too. So hopefully one day I'll make it out there. But yeah, I'm glad I seen this comment. We do have a election coming up on Tuesday over in Kentucky. Andy Bashir is running for re-election, and the guy up against him is Daniel Cameron. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. My mom and dad, they live next door to me here. We moved over to Tennessee in 2002. I was born here. Lived here up till I was like 5. Then mom and dad moved me over to Middlesboro. I grew up over there, and then when I got married, I moved over here, and then they moved over here with me to be closer and just to get away from all the high taxes that you have to pay over there. Their property taxes just got so out of control. It was hard to live, and so anyway, um, mom and dad still refers to, even though they've lived in Tennessee now for 21 years, they still refer to Tennessee, to Kentucky as home. They was both born there and raised there. And so they call Andy, they'll say our governor. And it's so confusing to me because they'll go, our governor done something, and I'm like, well, our governor's an idiot. Like Bill Lee's a moron, you know. Bill Lee is terrible. And mom will say, no, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about our governor. I'll go, Mom, we're in Tennessee now. So I'm always confused when mom and dad talks because they still refer to Kentucky as ours, as our home. But I'll say this: during the pandemic, I thought Andy did a hell of a job taking care of Kentucky, and I know a lot of people, got bent out of shape because he made them use some common sense. But over here in Tennessee, they tried their damnedest to throw common sense completely out the door. I mean, look who we got over here. We got Bill Lee. We got Marsha Blackburn, who we got to vote for Gloria and get her in there. But we got Bill Lee. We got Marsha Blackburn. We got Tim Burchett. And we got Kane, Glenn Jacobs from the WWE, which I love the character of Kane. Great character. Terrible politician, you know. Well, I don't know if I'd call him a terrible politician. I mean, he's one, but a politician with ideas that I definitely disagree with. But so that's what we had, and during that time period, it was like, damn. I remember when a lot of Kentucky people was getting mad at Andy Bashir, and I had cousins. It was like, it's communism. He's making my kid wear a mask, and they're teaching their kids that the world was perfect and holy until a talking snake messed it up. But anyway, I'm sitting there going, damn, could we trade? Like, I'll give you Bill Lee. You guys can have him if you'll send Andy over here. So, yeah, Kentucky, I really hope you guys keep Andy around. And I would like to see Andy on the national stage one day. I would like to see him as a potential presidential or vice presidential candidate because I love the dude and think he's a great governor. And I wished we had a governor here in Tennessee that was like Andy. Um, yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Uh, that's why in my song "Bill Lee is a Drag," I say it's getting harder and harder to say "Y'all come again." Just like, damn, look what we got here. It's like, but we got a lot of good people too, and that's something a lot of times the focus don't get put on good enough, and that's why I would encourage you, if you've not already, go check out my episode "If These Hills Could Talk" podcast with Gloria Johnson, and you can hear Gloria, hear her ideas, and hear her put those ideas out in a way that's what I love so much about Gloria is it's not a bunch of punchlines and a bunch of cliches. It's not a bunch of Dollar General impressions of Donald Trump. And Marsha Blackburn has adopted the MAGA style of politics. Tim Burchett he's like a damn great value. Hell, I wouldn't even call him that. He's like bottom feeder Trump impersonator now. And a lot of times we do end up talking about them because we're just wanting to get them out of office. But we've got Gloria Johnson now running against Marsha, and Gloria's got great ideas, and she can articulate those ideas. And she's not out there just for punchlines and cliches. She's not out there to do a bunch of rage farming to get people worked up. She talks straight and to the point. Um, and I'll be posting more about this the coming week. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me 100% on this one because a buddy of mine told me about it, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing a fundraiser for Gloria next Saturday, the 11th. I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing one for Maryville, Tennessee. So if you're, I'll post more about that. I'm going to be talking to my buddy Jeff, and hopefully he can give me some more details on it. But yeah, that's the thing that was so refreshing talking to Gloria because you didn't hear those. I just feel like when I hear MAGA talk, uh, I just feel like I'm at a WWE event. So it makes sense that Glenn Jacobs would gravitate toward Donald Trump's style of politics. He was a wrestler his whole life, so I could see that. But it's just punchlines and cliches and one-liners, and it just sucks. Um, but thank you so much to Fuzza for the tip. I really appreciate it. You found me on Midas Touch. Love what you do. You're a light in the darkness. Keep up the good work. Love you. Vote democracy November 7th. I love you too, man. I really appreciate you for being here. Um, And thank you so much for the tip. I do really enjoy working with Midas Touch. There are some great guys to work with, and you know, I don't say this just because I work with them, but they're they've become one of my favorite. They've become one of my well, they've become my top favorite news source. The reason being is because of the way they go about it. And again, I'll just say it to you: I wouldn't work with them if I didn't like what it was they did. There's left leaning people out there that have groups that are out there going, and I wouldn't want to be a part of them. But I'm very honored to be part of the Midas Touch Network because I love how it's just a no nonsense, pro truth, pro democracy, no bullshit. And what you have in the mainstream media a lot these days, you'll have people, Trump will fly in some plane, some new plane he's bought, and he'll walk out to the January 6th domestic terrorists singing the national anthem. But CNN, MSNBC, a lot of these mainstream places, like, well, Trump's new plane. Trump came in a new plane. Trump's got an interesting strategy. And I'm like, the dude's a lunatic. He's insane. He walked out to a bunch of terrorists singing a song, singing the national anthem. He's on there with them. He calls them hostages. Talk about that. Say that. And that's what Midas Touch does. It's like, this dude's deranged. And I mean, I'm so tired of people gaslighting us and telling us that you didn't really hear it the way you heard it. He called them hostages. He calls them patriots. He wants to pardon them for trying to overthrow the government. That's what they should be saying, and Democrats should just go ahead and take it and embrace it and own it and say, hey, I mean, what I don't understand about a lot of Democrats is that I'm like, you've got the ball. You're on the 1 yard line. You have the ball. All you got to do is take 1 foot and step over here and go touchdown. That's all you got to do. But a lot of times on these mainstream stations, they'll stand back and they'll just stand there holding the ball on the 1 yard line. You're like, go. Just call it for what it is. Say it for what it is. Don't sit and say interesting speech. No, there was nothing interesting about it. The dude's deranged. It's verbal diarrhea. Call it for what it is. And that's why I love working with Midas Touch, and that's why I love when Ben goes off on his, and Popak and Michael Cohen and Brett and all the guys, Jordy, Texas Paul, Coach D. There's just so many good contributors there, and they just call it like it really is. And they're pro truth and pro democracy, and you'll hear so many of them. That's the thing too. You will hear people on our side of the aisle all the time, say it's not about the Democratic Party to us. It's about democracy. We want a strong Republican Party. We want a Republican Party that's got ideas. We don't want a one party system. We don't want the Democrats to be the only party. We don't want Joe Biden to be our dictator. We don't want none of that. We want democracy. We want different ideas. I mean, wouldn't it be great to live in a world where, okay, you've got the Democrat brings his idea to the table, the Republican brings his idea to the table. And by the way, when you bring those ideas, they should be based on evidence. They should be based on facts. They should be based on data and research. Both people brings their ideas to the table, and me and you sits back and we say, damn, those are two really good ideas. Wonder which one would be the best. I don't know which one to pick. They're both really good. Wouldn't it be better if we lived in a world like that versus the one we're in, where we're like, well, these guys over here got some ideas. I don't agree with all of them, but these guys over here want a totalitarian government. These guys over here want a dictator. These guys over here want to take my right to vote away. That's the part that I don't understand, and I don't understand why more mainstream sources don't jump on top of that and really drive that point in the ground, because there's a lot of people sitting back. They watch the mainstream news. They turn it on the mainstream news. Yeah, well, they're talking about Trump's plane. No, talk about the fake electors. How about that? How about we talk about how he was found liable for sexual abuse? Drive that point home a little harder. Drive home how he's been found guilty of fraud. Point to the damn fraud case that he's failing miserably at right now. Listen to his children lying their asses off, going down in flames with him. Focus on that. Don't sit there and focus on their hair. Well, Don Jr. got his teeth whitened. Who gives a shit? Who cares if he got his teeth whitened? I mean, it's like, that's why that when people say, you watch that CNN, you watch MSNBC. No, I really don't. I like Rachel Maddow's podcast. I highly recommend Bagman, Deja News, Ultra. Rachel Maddow's podcasts are badass. I'm just not really a fan of MSNBC as a whole. I mean, they have stuff on there that I have enjoyed, but I don't. That's not my only news source. I don't. That's not the only place I go for news. People thinks because they just listen to Fox News all the time that we must have our channel, we must have our brand. It's not about a brand to us. Again, going back to WWE style shit. It's not about a brand. It's not about a team. This isn't the Steelers and the Cowboys. This is democracy on the line, and that's what we're trying to talk about. I would love to see those Republicans all day long that like, hey, could you come up and talk some more? Could Chris Christie talk a little more? Could Mitt Romney talk a little bit more? No, I'm not going. I'm still not going to vote for him. Liz Cheney, I'm not going to vote for her, but she's more reasonable. It's like, good Lord, you've got. I mean, the other alternatives is Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, our new speaker. Mike Johnson. Jeez, it's like it's fascism. Say it out loud. Don't be afraid to call it for what it is. Don't sit there and dance around that. When Mike Johnson says, "Oh, the Bible is my worldview. If you want to go to my worldview, if you want to know my worldview, just go check out the Bible." Well, okay. What about slavery? Are you going to talk about how the Bible says that you should, if you beat your slave and your slave dies, how is it goes? If you beat your slave, it's like, you should be punished if it dies, but if it lives, you shouldn't be, or however it goes. It's like ridiculous. I mean, and when someone says the Bible is my worldview, no, it's your interpretation of it. We're talking about a book that's open to interpretation, and everybody interprets it differently, and everybody goes out there and does their thing. Uh, where I live, good Lord, there's like where I used to live on the other road I used to live on. There was a Baptist church, a Methodist church, a Pentecostal church, and a Free Will Baptist church, and you could stand on one parking lot and throw a rock and hit the others. They were that close together. All those churches had different points of view. All those churches had a different interpretation. And everybody sitting in the building has a different interpretation. So why would we want to have a politician who interprets an ancient book that's been edited and re-edited more times than any book in human history? You want that guy to take his interpretation of a made-up book and go, oh, that's my worldview. No, I want a politician whose worldview is based in science and whose worldview is based in facts and truth and evidence. And, I know it's an elementary example to give you, but if someone says 2 plus 2 equals 4, okay. If someone says 2 plus 2 equals 78, it's not, okay. Don't sit there and go, well, there's two sides. There's two sides to this. That's an interesting way to look at it. It's 78. No, 2 plus 2 is 4. Until you can demonstrate how 2 plus 2 equals 78, you got nothing. Okay, so it's like that. So this idea that you want politicians to interpret a book like that, you want them to interpret that book, and you want them in charge of your lives. That's why so many people's rights have been stripped, because the Supreme Court is now balanced that way, and it's ridiculous. It really is. But yeah, glad you guys are with me. Hope everyone is doing good. And just checking something here. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being with me. I'm going to be here for a little while longer. If you guys want to hang out, I'm game. We got 214 people in the house, and appreciate you being here with me. Oh, we got Miss Texas Paula in the house. Glad to see you here. Tell Paula I said hello. I listen to Bo every day. I listen to the Midas Touch Network. I always check out what Texas Paul and Coach D's saying. I always listen to what Ben and Brett and Jordy have. I always listen to their podcasts. I hardly ever miss it. And I really love Bo with the Fifth Column, and I love David Packman. I really like that show a lot. But yeah, Bo is super calm and super laid back, and man, he's so smart and knowledgeable of everything he's saying. He really is. And I don't know. He's just got a way, like you said, it is a good. I wind down listening to Bo. Like at the end of the day, I will go listen to Bo, and it's like I hear him. I like the way he goes about it. I like the whole. Okay, internet people, it's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about this, and then at the end, well, it's just a thought. Y'all have a nice day. Boom, and he gets to the point. My favorite Bo video, I can't find it back. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but my favorite Bo video was where he was talking. It wasn't even really political. He was talking about the song "Ode to Billy Joe" by Bobby Gentry, and he was talking about how that he he was talking about the meaning of the song and how a lot of people will talk about what did Billy Joe and her, the narrator, what was it they threw off the bridge. That's been a debate for years. Like, what did they actually throw off the bridge? And then also, why did Billy Joe jump off the bridge? And Bo made this great point. I never thought about it before, but he was like, that's not the point of the song. Why Billy Joe jumped and what they threw off the bridge, that's not the point of the song. The point of the song is the conversation happening around the dinner table. And it's just like, well, I got some field to plow. Billy Joe never made no sense anyhow. I got to go. It's like, the conversation that people has after someone dies. The only person that mattered, like the only person that really cared about Billy Joe was the narrator of the song. Everybody else in the family was like, yeah, I heard about Billy Joe. What's he up to? Like they just went on with their lives. That was one of my favorite Bo videos ever. I'll have to look that one up and share it if I can find it. It was really great. But I really, really do appreciate y'all so much, man, for being here with me. It's been a fun time, and we'll go a little while longer. Let's see. But yeah, we'll sit here and go a little while longer. So I hope everyone is doing good. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you for hitting the virtual tip jars and everything. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone is ready for the holidays. I'm trying to get my Christmas shopping done. I'm getting close. It's been a couple of years ago now. It was like pre-pandemic. I don't remember if it was 18 or 19. Might have been 18. Might have been the year I went to Black Friday. But I remember I was Christmas shopping after Christmas because like all the family didn't make it right on Christmas Day. And so I'm out there like on the 26th still trying to shop to get people shit. And I was like, never again. I'm never going through this again. And so I just decided to start doing it early. Last year I was done by September. This year I've got about 3 more gifts to buy, and I'm done. I'm calling it a day. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm just scrolling through some of these here, see what I might have missed. They're going by super fast, and I've got you guys pulled up over here too. Got you guys pulled up over here, but yeah. Let's see. You guys bear with me just a minute here. I'm just kind of scrolling back through to see what and all that I might have missed. All right. I just basically put Troy in timeout. That's what I was trying to figure out how to do on my phone. I put him in timeout for 24 hours. I was watching the feed, and I don't have a moderator. We gotta change that. But I was sitting here watching the feed, and you guys are talking to me. You guys are saying a lot of, I'm trying to keep the conversation going with you guys, and you got somebody over here that's just like, that their only mission here is to troll. And again, trolling's not debating. Trolling tells me you live a miserable damn life, and the only thing you got to do with your time is sit here and go on about somebody. So I found him and put him in timeout. So figured out how to do that anyway. Next time I'll have a moderator and we'll just show him the door quickly because I realize you're going to get trolls, and I realize you're going to have people say their shit, and that's whatever. I can deal with one or two here and there, but when I look over at the comment section and everybody's talking to Troy, and they're not talking to me, and we're not getting. He's ruining the time. I'm gonna tell a funny story. It's kind of along the same lines of what we're doing here. I was out one night. I don't remember who the third person was at this show. It was either Van Eaton or Jeff Lane, but it was me, Mike McGill, and I can't remember if it was Van Eaton or Jeff Lane, but that's who was at this show. And we're there, and at this show, and there's this. Okay, what happened was they had a wedding. It was at Barley's in Maryville, which I think they call the Blue Tick something now. But anyway, they this wedding ended, and there's a table of people sitting right in front of the stage. Now they told the people after the wedding ended, you can stick around and watch the music if you want to. Now everybody was done eating, like all the food was off the table. They're just chattering at this point. And we're about to have a songwriter in the round kind of moment where we're going to sit there and tell stories behind our songs, kind of like what I'm doing here, just with an audience that's right there physically in front of you. So we get up there and we start trying to play our music, but this table didn't get the memo. They didn't get the memo and so we had like their table was right up front, like right. I mean, we could just reach out and kick them if we wanted to. Their table's right there against the stage, and then the people that came to see us do this show is behind them. And they're leaning forward going, I can't hear. Like, I can't, hear what's going on. And at one point, my buddy Mike McGill just got pissed. I don't blame him. He just started beating his guitar. And finally, he's like, folks, hey, look, we're having a songwriter in the round night here now. You guys were told that that's what was going to happen. It was a show that you're supposed to be quiet at. And, I know you guys was here first, but your part's over and has been over for a long time, and you're still hanging around. And so, there was people. The moral of that story, the whole reason I told it is because those people was ruining the show for everybody else, and so that's how I look at Troy. So yeah, we put him in timeout. He can come back and try her again next time, and I'll have a moderator that will just show him the door quickly. So yeah. No, I'm not going to bring back Troy anytime soon. He's in timeout. I thought that was pretty funny. I didn't realize that was an option. Again, this is all new to me, and it was kind of comical that timeout. Okay. I thought there would be the option to just block or whatever. But no, you put someone in timeout. So what a world to live in, But yeah, timeout. That just hit me funny. It was like I could have put him in timeout for an hour, but I give him 24 hours maximum sentence. And the funny part about that guy, and I'll be honest with you, we'll just talk for a minute about the trolls. I'm gonna take you behind the scenes here just for a minute. I don't normally do this. Thanks, Miss Texas Paul. I definitely have to figure out how to block them. I'm doing this from my phone, and that was the only option that I saw. But I do have quite a few trolls, and I have more on Facebook than anywhere else, more so than anywhere. And I think some of them have drifted over and made it over here. But I have got trolls on my Facebook that have been there from day one. When they start just flat out spewing racism and bigotry and homophobia, transphobia, when they just come right out with it like that, I block them immediately. But these are people that have managed to just be trolls and hang around. They don't have no profile picture. They have names that I'm saying I don't even know if that's a real name, and they sound a whole lot like people that I've known. And I'm sitting there going, okay, like you've got a picture of a bald eagle, but you sure sound a lot like that dude I used to work with. You sure sound a lot like that friend that used to come around. You use his same talking points, same mannerisms, same speaking pattern, same little laugh out loud. I support your music. I just don't like your views. Yeah, I remember you saying that to me at the factory. Yeah, it's funny you said that under your fake name. I've got the Tennessee Brando moniker, but I'm sitting right here in front of you, and everybody knows where I'm at and who I am, and I'm not hiding behind Donald Trump's head on Rambo's body and trolling people. So a lot of those trolls, I keep them around because if they start bullying people, threatening people, if they start spewing racism and all that bigotry, I I cut them off real quick. But there's a couple that's still over there in the Facebook world, and I'm like, yeah, I pretty much know who you are. um, it's funny how one of these days they'll catch me in the wrong mood, and I'll just like be walking through Walmart, be, hey, how's it been going, buddy? I don't know. I was talking to you before I got out of the car. You was telling me what a commie I am. You was telling me how I was a Marxist there, Bob. You think I don't know who you are? Jeez. And that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, if people have a problem with you, that's it's their problem. It's just whatever. But yeah, so many trolls for whatever reason they put a picture of an American flag or Jesus or a bald eagle or just stuff like that, and it's or just a motorcycle with a big muscle or something. It's like, yeah. Now you know what's funny? That comment there, Steven says, "I gave up social media in 2012." I I don't know if I might have talked about this in the previous lives, but for a long time I wrote blogs. Believe it or not, back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, I wrote blogs, and I had a pretty good following doing it. I actually had more people, like kind of like here we are. I had more people tuning into that political commentary, but I just kind of got away from it. Um, there for a while because sometimes it can just get so damn heavy, man. It's like sometimes it's like, well, let's talk about something else. And I say that all the time around the house now. I'll say to my family, hey, let's talk about something else, but we always end up talking about it. It seems like the world's in a completely different place than it was in 2012. It's like, you know, we talked politics back then. Me and my family have always talked politics, but I had Republican family members that I could still talk to, and I had um, Republican friends that was still reasonable people. And we would talk about politics around election time, or if some major event happened, we might talk about that a little bit. But now it just seems to have become what everybody's talking about, and it's just hard to get away from it. And like I said earlier, I feel like the issues at hand were more important, and we should be talking about it. I really feel like we should. One of the biggest things I hear people say, and I'm like, look, that statement is badly outdated. Anytime somebody says, "Hey, don't talk politics or religion," I'm like, I think what got us into this mess was we didn't talk it enough. I think we sat back and made assumptions, and we didn't make ourselves clear about certain things, and then all of a sudden, if Donald Trump did anything, he exposed who a lot of people really were, and that's sad. There was people in my life that I thought, man, these are good people. They won't go for this. They will not go for this. And he just brought out a side of them I didn't think was there. I was naive enough to think, no, they're a good guy down underneath all that. But Trump just exposed that, and all of a sudden, they felt empowered to say all those quiet parts out loud. And it's like, son of a bitch. So it's a hell of a time to be alive. Now, what's funny, Road Dog says this guy doesn't ride a motorcycle. I don't. I don't know if you're talking about you or me, but I don't. I don't ride. Um, I get accused of it all the time. People always ask me about it. I guess because of the bandana and the tattoos and the rings. I'll go ahead and tell you the story behind that. And I've never. I mean, I've rode on the back of a bike a time or two. I've rode a dirt. I didn't have a dirt bike, but a buddy of mine used to have one, and I would ride it around with him. But I've never been a biker at all. But what basically happened was over time, as I was as a musician going out there and playing in dive bars, I don't know what it was back in the day. And someone asked earlier if I had any pictures from that time in my life. I'll find some and I'll be sharing them on social media. Do some throwbacks for you. But I used to have long hair, and it was actually like an auburn red. And people used to call me the Undertaker. They said I looked like the Undertaker on wrestling when my goatee was red and everything, and the long red hair. Um, but I don't know what it was when I started playing out. I always wore a ball cap growing up. Like I always had a hat on my head. And then when I went out and started playing music, I didn't like wearing the ball cap, and I started trying to find different cowboy hats to wear, and just none of them seemed to fit. And besides, I've got a big head. No, like if I buy a ball cap in a department store like a Walmart or something, I have to if one will fit me, I have to put it on the very last notch or extend it all the way. It's like so I would go out to these hat stores and try to try on hats, and they would never have none to fit, and nothing looked right. Everything just looked ridiculous on my head. But for whatever reason, I just always had a drawer full of bandanas, and I don't know why. My mom and dad always had them around, and my dad would use them as handkerchiefs and stuff, and they were just sort of always around, you know. And I had some in my drawer, and never really wore them. They were just like I said, for whatever reason, they were just there. And one night I was going to a gig in Jellicoe, Tennessee at the Starlight, and I had this hat that wasn't very comfortable. I didn't like how I looked in it. I wasn't comfortable in it at all. And I thought, no, I'm not going to wear that hat tonight, but I want something on my head. And I looked down and seen my bandanas laying there. And I first tied it like Willie Nelson. You know, I just folded it and put it across my head that way. My top of my head was exposed, the long hair hanging down. And my hair did, at one point, get all the way to past my belly button. I actually did braid it like Willie a time or two. I don't. I might be able to find the picture of that. That's a rare picture. I don't have that anywhere on social media. I'd have to find the actual physical copy of it somewhere. But anyway, I tied it that way a time or two. And then I tried tying it kind of like they used to do in the 80s, like Steve Earle and guys like that used to do. Brett Michaels would have like the hair coming down over top of it and it'd be underneath it. uh, I tried that a time or two and didn't like how that looked. And then one night I just saw The Undertaker and was like, yeah, that would make sense. And so I just tied it this way and it stuck. I started off wearing dark blue ones and I wore a red one from time to time. I also had a camouflage one that I randomly wear. I had a really cool light blue one at one point. Even had a white one, but one day I just settled on black and stayed there. And you know, then I started getting tattoos. I didn't get my first tattoo till I was 28. My first tattoo was this phoenix and a dream catcher here. I just always liked them. I can remember a time, for those of you, if anybody's still in the house that grew up in the Middlesboro, Kentucky area, Cumberland Gap area, we used to have a place, well, the caves are still there. It's Cudjoe's Cave, but there used to be a little store on the mountain there called, you know, it was where Cudjoe's Cave was. There was a little store there called Cudjoe's. And they sold like coonskin hats and like, you know, tomahawks and stuff like that. And a lot of Daniel Boone shit. And I remember one time my mama used to stop there and get her cigarettes. And we stopped there one day to get some cigarettes, and this biker dude comes walking out, and he's got this big, like, eagle on his arm, you know, just a big old eagle on his arm. And I just thought that was the coolest looking, you know, tattoo on his forearm. And I said to my mama, we called her Nana, I said, Nana, I said, what's that? I said, that dude's got something drawn on his arm. She said, yeah, it's a tattoo. And I was like, that's awesome. I want one of those. She's like, no, you don't. She said, they won't wash off. They're permanent. I was like, how do they make them permanent? So she starts explaining to me how it works. But I just remember that moment as a little kid going, I want one of those. And so years later, I started getting tattoos. And then, I don't know, I just randomly started wearing bracelets. And be sure to check out Rockin' Leather on Etsy. That's where I'm hoping I get her name right. I'm probably going to butcher it. But Cindy made this for me personally. It's my own one, my own custom one. Rockin' Leather on Etsy. I'll have to be better about that next time. I actually have her business card somewhere around here. But she made this one for me. I just started wearing these. And then this here's like a Buddhist prayer ring that I got. And now this ring here, it looks biker as fuck. There was a really good dude named Ron Cooper. Who passed away in a motorcycle accident. If anyone from Knoxville, or you've ever been to a show out in Maryville at the Shed, Ron used to work at the Shed. He had a big, long, kind of like a salt and pepper beard and long hair. Always wore like bandanas. He'd have like a American flag bandana on his head. Super good dude. Used to come out to my shows. Anytime I played Barley's in Maryville, he was always there. And they had a concert for him after he passed away. My buddy Mike McGill played at it. Mike McGill and Refills played. And I went down there to watch it. And I always liked Keith Richards' skull ring that he had. I always loved that ring that Keith Richards wore. And they were having this, you know, kind of celebration of life for Ron. And I walked over, and there was this dude going out of business. He was like, this is the last of my rings. I'm done. He just had a few left on the table. And he was like, you know, he's like, I'll give it to you for $20 if you want it. And I was like, well, yeah. And so I just reached and got it, and it just kind of, it just becomes sort of like almost a in memory of Ron kind of thing to me. I just kind of associate it with that. But he was a super good dude. Anytime he came around, he always had certain tunes of mine that he wanted to request, and just gone too soon for real. And so be sure to watch out for motorcycles when you're driving, because it is so easy. You look down at your phone for one split second, you get distracted for one split second, you could, you know, so yeah, just be sure to watch out for those. But yeah, over time, people started saying, "Oh, he's a biker. He looks like a biker," and I'm like, "No, I just like wearing black, and I got tattoos and wear some rings on my fingers and some leather cuffs." But and a lot of times I don't now. I don't have any at the moment, but I used to wear Harley boots, which added even more confusion. But people would say, "Well, why do you wear those boots if you don't ride?" I'm like, "Because first of all, they're comfortable and they last forever. They're good, durable boots, you know." So, but it's one of the things nowadays. It was that way even back when I was in school. Back when I was in school, I'll tell you all a little funny story real quick. But back when I was in school, uh, um, high school, the grunge era came along. Okay, and I already had jeans with holes in them, and I already had the flannel shirt. you know, I mean, I washed my hair, but I already looked like a grunge kid. And so all of a sudden, grunge is like the big thing, and everybody's wearing flannels, and I've been wearing them since grade school. And then all of a sudden, people's coming up to me like, "You listen to grunge?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, No, I just wear flannels." "You listen to Nirvana? You listen to Alice in Chains?" I'm like, "No, I mean," which I did later on. I got big into it, but at first I was going, "Why is everybody like suddenly flannels are cool?" So that's kind of been the story of my life. It's like I've always just done whatever felt comfortable to me at the time. I still wear flannels. But yeah. Well, Kimberly, if you need to go to bed, thank you for hanging in there. We have went a long time. We went way longer than I expected. So I'll tell you what I may do. I may just play a couple of more tunes and see how it goes. So yeah. But yeah, it's thank you guys so much for being here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I tell you what, I'll play you guys a few more tunes and see what I got here in my bag of tricks we can pull out for you. Play a couple of more and we'll wrap her up. But again, I just want to thank you guys so much for being here. It's always a fun time whenever we do the table. I remember what's funny is I can remember my old tunes all day long. Like when someone earlier asked for Jeff asked for the Edge, I was able to remember it, no problem. But a lot of these new songs, what you got to understand is a lot of times, hell, I don't even write them down half the time. Sometimes I ended up writing them down later, like after the fact. But people's like, "You can't remember your own songs." I'm like, well, I write them so fast, and ended up writing them so fast that I've had to go back and write them down so I could remember. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here with me. I really appreciate all of you, and we'll play you a few more before we go. Tell you what, I'll do this tune here for you. This is the song that kind of started the political satire for me, and really got the ball rolling. I had been doing good with getting people to watch my social commentary, but I hadn't. All right, I'll get that one for you. You know what? You asked me for that one once before, and I forgot it, so I apologize for that. But I'll play this one real quick. Um, I I'd been doing the political and social commentary, but I just hadn't really written songs to go with it. And one day I was talking with Texas Paul on the phone. I'll never forget this. We were talking, and I had written. Well, he had heard some of my tunes, and he was like, "Man, all you got to do is just do it. Just go for it. Just embrace it." just write about it. You're already talking about it, so just write about it in a song. He said, dude, it's yours for the taking. Just reach out and grab it. And I wrote this tune called Bill Lee is a Drag. It's back when Bill Lee was trying to ban all the drag shows and stuff. So I wrote this tune here. The governor says I should be afraid of the latest boogeymen. They're all wearing dresses and reading books to the kids. But he's okay with my children having active shooter drills. And he never says a word about what the priests have done for real. Yeah, Tennessee is home to me, but I do have to admit it's getting a whole lot harder to say y'all come again. 'Cause everywhere I turn, a redneck waves some hateful rag. And it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Bill Lee, he's a drag. The good old boys dug hair bands back when glam rock ruled the day. Wore spandex and their high heels, but now they're all afraid. And I hear tell the governor used to dress in women's clothes. Go ask him about it and just watch his head explode. Yeah, Tennessee is home to me, but these sure are strange times. Never thought I'd see the day when being homeless was a crime. And now everywhere I turn, a redneck waves some hateful rag. And it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Bill Lee, he's a drag. Yeah, it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Bill Lee, he's a drag. All right. Well, I had a request for this tune here, which is another old one. A while ago, someone asked me to play my song "Praise the Lord and Pass the Pills." If you just tuned in, you can go back and watch the replay and check it out. That song was written around 08 or 09, and so was this one. I wrote this one here with my good buddy Gary Lee. We wrote this one together. We wrote a lot of tunes together during the Rillbilly years. We would send each other ideas, and he would text me lyrics all the time, and titles and lyrics and choruses and verses, and here, do something with this, and we would get them. This tune here became our little hit in our little world. In our little corner of the world, this was the one tune that we could not leave without having to play more than once. And it was about a real life person who was in the audience the first time we ever sang it, and it didn't go over well with her. The crowd loved it. But after a while, she actually began to embrace it, and I think she even used it as a ringtone for a while. So it all ended well. But this is the tune. Back in the dive bar days, we'd play this tune, and the minute I said the first line, everybody's head would snap if they weren't paying attention. They definitely did when we sang this one. This one's available on my album Dark Side of the Mountain. It's under Brandon Fulson, Fulson. It's also a live version on Live at the Butcher's Pub. But yeah, this was always the you could not play the Mustang Lounge in Tazewell that you didn't play this one twice. I got to switch picks again. Sorry, I don't know why that flimsy pick's laying there. Well, I should have listened to my daddy when he said, "Hey laddie, don't you know that girl's a whore? She done rolled around with every man in town. You better kick her ass out the door. Got the looks to kill and she loves them pills. You're about to get yourself in a bind. She's been writing bad checks for lore sets and drinking $3 wine." Well, it just goes to show you never know what you might do when you get stoned. And if you talk real smooth and put on the moves, she might follow you home every time. And if you lay the root to a prostitute, you might end up doing time. She was writing bad checks for Laura sets and drinking $3 wine. So the very next day I stopped to pay some bills overdue. And there on the sign from the FBI was staring you know who. Wanted for extortion, lying and whoring down at the 5 and Dime. And she was writing bad checks for Percocets and drinking $3 wine. Well, the chick was up and I had enough, so I flew back to the house. And there on the floor when I opened the door was that girl's old white blouse. I got the scoop, she flew the coop and stole everything she could find. And she was writing bad checks for Xanax and drinking $3 wine. It just goes to show, you never know what you might do when you get stoned. And if you talk real smooth and put on the move, she might follow you home every time. And if you lay the root to a prostitute, you might end up doing time. Writing bad checks for Percocet and drinking $3 wine. She was writing bad checks for Laura said she was drinking $3 wine. All right. I'll tell you what, I didn't forget the words. What happened was I looked over and I read a comment. I can't do that. I can't read comments. I can't read comments and sing. And I read a comment, and when I did, I just jumped to the chorus. And then I got halfway through the chorus, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't sing the line about, for all that is bitching, I wouldn't listen. I thought he had lost his mind. Never thought I'd get fleeced. It was my first piece, and we were doing fine. So in love, she was sent from above, stone cold pussy blind. Writing bad checks for Laura sets and drinking $3 wine. I didn't forget it. I just read the comment and jumped to the chorus and went, wait a minute, I didn't sing the second verse. So there is the botched version. But that's one of the things, no joke, like when I've been playing in dive bars, if anyone has ever heard me like forget the words or just jump to a chorus or go into a lead solo, it's because somebody did something that drew my attention away from it. I remember one time I was playing Can't You See by the Marshall Tucker Band. Played that song 1,000 times. And I'm playing it, and this dude just jumps up out of his chair for whatever reason, I don't know. I thought he was going to fight for a minute, but it wasn't. I guess he was just wanting to dance, but he jumped up and took his leather jacket off and threw it as hard as he could on the floor. And when that leather jacket hit the floor, it just popped really hard. And I just kind of looked over at that and just completely left a verse out of that song. And everybody's like, you went to the chorus too quick. I was like, oh, did I? My bad. But yeah, that's what happened there. I looked over and I read the comment, and then I was singing the chorus going, wait, that got here too quick. so yeah, again, I really appreciate all of you for taking time out. We've been here a long time tonight, guys, and I really do appreciate you for hanging in there with me as long as you have. Thank you so much for the tips and hitting the virtual tip jar. I really appreciate it. Like I've said before, you don't have to. They're not required to be here, or by no means. But I really appreciate it when you do. Definitely helps me to do what it is that I do. We've went about 2.5 hours tonight, so I'm going to wrap it up. Play y'all one more before I go, and I want to remind you that I will be back here at the table doing another YouTube live. Here on YouTube, it'll be November 24th, which is Black Friday. So once you got Thanksgiving over with and you got all the Black Friday shopping out of the way, be sure to tune in. I'll be back here again. I want to give a shout out to my members and remind you guys I am going to be making a post about this in the members only. I want to know like what might be a good night that we could do some members only shows. Those would definitely be more of an intimate type setting. We've got quite a big following of members now, so if you haven't checked those out, be sure to check them out before you leave. Or check them out after the show, I mean. But again, it means a lot to me that you guys would sit here this long. For those of you that's been here, I noticed some of those comments going by. You've been here the whole time, and I really appreciate it. I really do, and grateful for all of you. So until next time, I'll close it out with this tune here that I wrote. Well, it says here on my paper, I wrote it on I finished it on July 17th of 23. You know, back when I was growing up, and I heard Garth Brooks' first couple albums, I'd be a liar if I said I didn't have them. I definitely listened to him and definitely liked those first 2 or 3 albums that he put out. But then as time went on, he just kept getting more poppy with it. And he did the whole Chris Gaines thing, and I just kind of got away from it. It just it wasn't my thing anymore. I always liked more of the old school country music. I'm a big Waylon Jennings fan, and Buck Owens is a god to me. And so I like that kind of music, and he just got more poppy with it. And I don't know, a lot of the comments he made too over the years just kind of, I don't know, turned me off to him for a long time. And then we're in 2023, and we're having this debate about Bud Light, and Kid Rock goes out and shoots up a bunch of Bud Light, and Travis Tritt throws a fit over it, and John Rich writes a song, "Stick Your Progress Up Your Ass" and all this, and then Garth Brooks is like the voice of reason. All of a sudden, it's like Garth Brooks is talking. He's going to open up a bar in Nashville, and he's talking about how he's going to serve Bud Light in his bar, and that if people don't like it, they can go somewhere else. It was just like, it was one of the most common sense things I ever heard the dude say. It was just like, look, if you can't be respectful and treat everyone with respect, and you want to be an asshole, there's other places you can go. I thought, okay, fair enough. And then people came down on his head like it was the end of the world. And prior to that, I'd seen Garth Brooks get involved in a lot of good charitable stuff, and saw him working alongside Jimmy Carter, building houses with people. And over time, I mean, I wasn't a fan of the pop country stuff that he did, but over time, I began to appreciate a lot of things that he did for the world. And then, during that whole thing, I was just like, man, why is people giving him such a hard time for saying if you want to be an asshole, go somewhere else? That's not like, so I don't know. Back in the 90s, during those years, I was wearing out every Travis Tritt record around, and I still like some of Travis Tritt's music. There's still certain songs of his that when they come on, I don't skip them. His love songs kind of got a little sappy to me, and just kind of brings back some bad memories. But no, like if certain ones comes on, I still listen. But I just thought to myself that this is weird. Like, here I am, like agreeing with here I am, I'm agreeing with Garth Brooks. Like, that's really weird. So that's why I said politics make for some strange bedfellows. But anyway, you know what, folks? I would be willing to bet that Allison is Troy, because Troy probably gets put in timeout and he has to resort to his backup account. So Allison, Troy, whoever the hell you are, I put you in timeout because you was ruining the show for everybody else. Next time I'm going to have a moderator, and y'all will be showed the door, because we're not going to ruin it for everybody else. So that's the last thing I'm ever going to say to you. The next time you try it, you'll just be shown the door, and be glad you're not in the Mustang Lounge, is all I can say. here on YouTube, Allison, Troy, the both of yous, you just get put in timeout on YouTube. At the Mustang Lounge, there's still people we ain't seen since that went out the hard way. We don't do that here. We just put you in timeout. So that's all there is to it. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, we caught him. That's Troy. This is your last stand, Troy. The next time there'll be a moderator that'll show you out. Until next time, folks. Felt like the times were changing, or so we all believe. Thought we were making progress, man, were we naive. Some folks need a hero, and that hero found his crowd, and gave them all the balls to say quiet parts out loud. Then rage became the fashion, disrespect became the trend. Assholes wanna make hate great again. Politics make for strange bedfellows, and now here we are, tuning out the Tritts, having a beer with Garth. We get told we hate our country if we don't back their guy. We point out the obvious, they hit their gaslight. They tell us we hate Jesus while they sit and wish us dead. I've read the book and they don't look a thing like the words in red. Then rage became the fashion, disrespect became the trend, and assholes wanna make hate great again. Politics make for strange bedfellows, and now here we are, tuning out the trits, having a beer with Garth. Yeah, we're tuning out all the bullshit, and that means you too, Troy, and having a beer with Garth. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate you guys for hanging out for over 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 40 minutes. You guys hung with me. And if you came in the middle of the show, it'll be uploaded live. You can go back and watch the replay. I'll share it tomorrow. I usually share the set list so people kind of knows how the show's going to go. You can sit back. I don't have a set list when I play. I just kind of yank them out and just play them as I think of them. But I always like to put the set list the next day so people can see what we did and everything. So you guys be sure to come back on Black Friday. And again, thank y'all so much for being with me, and everybody that's here. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me this long. It was a great show. It went by quick. It was one of those things where I remember looking up at like 10:20 going, damn, we've been here an hour and 20 minutes already. And so it went by fast, but it does when you're having a good time. So thank you guys for the good time. Thank you all for the tips. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll be back here again on Black Friday to get through the holidays together. So until next time, I'm Tennessee Brando. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Stephen, for hitting that right at the end. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. You guys are the best, and I appreciate all of you. So until next time, I'm Tennessee Brando. You guys keep tuning in. I'll keep telling you the truth.